the smart cities are concerned, of course, the last 1.5 years it's been a bit slow because of things which are happening. But we do work at the state level with the smart cities, and at the national level, Mr. Hussein leads it with a few members from different industry sectors covering technology, water solutions, and consultants. So thank you, Chairman, for taking time out and being here, sir. So you are on mute, sir.
Okay. Are we live now, Prashant, or?
Maybe we'll wait for a minute or so. We said 11 o'clock. It's 10:59. I'll just to the speakers if we have all of them. Dr. Senthil is here from IIT Palakkad. Good morning, Dr. Senthil. Thank you for being here.
Prashant, I just have one query. How can I share my screen here on?
Sorry?
I'm not able to share the screen.
No, your voice is not audible. Could you just repeat it once again, please?
Share the screen.
In general, there seems to be some interruption in the sound. Is it possible to trace where it is from?
Mr. Prashant, I think you need to just mute yourself, because when you mute, the noise goes away. Yeah.
Okay. So actually,
Arshad, can you just check where is the problem? I believe there is some disturbance which are coming out. Arshad is my colleague who's helping me with this.
I think it's better now.
Okay.
Okay, so Prashant, I can see you. Can you see me now? Is that video okay?
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay.
Everyone, this is Harsh. Just want to check the share content option is grayed off.
yeah, we don't have an option to share the presentation.
Just giving you, sir. Now you have the right, sir.
No, I don't find that option yet.
You have the right to share the option. You have to move the cursor down. The option.
This option is available, but it's grayed off. Some issues.
Hello. So I will be playing the screen, no? So the presentations. I don't have an option here to.
What?
So okay, this is our. Then I need to. I just
you can see the option. You can see the option, but it is grayed out. Button is grayed out.
Sir, who will share the screen?
Sorry. So see, each of the speakers who would request for a presentation, I would request them to give access.
Right, but right now, whom I need to give the access? Because one by one we can give the access.
You can start with Dr. Amarnath if that's fine, and then Dr. Amarnath would call on the names as he invites the speakers. Then you can accordingly give that.
Yeah, right. Right now, Mr. Amarnath has the access to share the screen.
All right.
Well, I option it says open setting. Some things is let me check.
So simply you have to move down the cursor to the bottom. Then there will be multiple options. First, mute yourself. Then camera. Then third option is to share the screen.
Okay.
option is grayed off. It's not.
I think this will come one by one. This may not come all together. So he started with Dr. Amarnath, and as he calls on the speaker, we'll have that access given.
Mr. Amarnath has left the call.
Okay, he's left the call. Probably he'll just join back. Okay, Dr. Amarnath, you can try it now. Arshit, can you give the access to Dr. Amarnath now? I think now you will be able to do that.
Yes, yes, perfect.
Okay, I think all the speakers are on board. May I take this opportunity to welcome all the delegates who have confirmed their participation and who are here on the panel. And before that, may I actually welcome all the panelists who have kindly accepted our request to be on the panel and taken time out to be here on the panel and address the participants. Thank you very much for being here. I would also request Mr. Amit Gosain to open up the session. But before that, let me thank him for being here. In fact, he had some other calls today morning. I requested him to be here on the important discussion here and taking time out and take time out for this opening remarks. Chairman, may I request you to do the opening remarks? We can start now. We have all the panelists on board, sir.
Okay, thanks a lot, Prashant, and thank you to CII, and thank you to all the panelists who have agreed to join this very important session. There are a lot of virtual sessions happening today, but I think this is of great interest. I believe there are a lot of people who are watching us live, and the participation rate is very, very high. And I think also thank the sponsors who've been kind enough to come forward for this important session, because we all understand the importance of digitalization. So welcome to this virtual conference on digital construction, building information modeling for digital transformation, which is organized by CII in partnership with IBIMA and BIMCrew. So it's a good partnership to have, because this conference will really focus on the recent trends and developments on real estate and construction technologies, particularly on the digitalization part. And I think, what is building information modeling? That's the question which comes in many minds now, and many of you know it. It's a process which creates intelligent data that can be used throughout the life cycle of a building or infrastructure projects. So extremely important part, especially with the growing urbanization that's making the global architecture, engineering, construction industry to work smarter, look smarter, and make things more efficient. But let me just say that while we are today facing a big challenge in COVID, digitalization has actually moved faster. So if we see, there are, of course, the pandemic has created a lot of panic, but there are some good things that have come out of it. One is, of course, the way we have now learned the virtual way of doing things, and especially the digitalization trend that's happening. And this whole construction technology that goes to real estate, even the real estate, the larger players, the smaller players, everybody is now looking at how to digitalize so that there is some kind of social distancing that happens with the technology. So, even when you look at the coronavirus pandemic, and like I said, it's fast-tracked a lot of digitalization. For example, our company, Kone, we've also come out with a lot of solutions to actually not even press the button on an elevator, but you can do it through WhatsApp. This technology would have never come out. So there is a lot of IoT being used. There's a lot of edge, cloud, artificial intelligence, extended reality, whether it's artificial intelligence or virtual reality. All that is really driving digital transformation a lot. Therefore, today's discussion becomes very important, and today's times are very important for this discussion. Now, what I think the few things that I mentioned are Internet of Things, which can connect the interworkings of properties to enhance personalized customer experience. A lot being used in real estate already. A lot of facility managers use it, whether it's to manage buildings or to manage various softwares, whether it's air conditioning or it's elevators, etc. Then there are drones, which are now widely used. Augmented reality has actually become a reality. We see that all the time, even in our virtual conferences that we have. There is a lot of virtual reality there. And I think more importantly, as the government takes the step on smart cities and making them smarter, I think there is no better time to do that. There is no better time to connect people through Wi-Fi throughout the city. And while we were thinking, how will it happen? Only a few years back, and cities like Delhi, where we said there'll be 100% Wi-Fi. Now it has to become a reality because we have to now follow a different new normal of life. So BIM not only allows the design and construction teams to work more efficiently, but it also allows them to capture the data that they create during the process. So it becomes more important now for BIM because through that data, we actually capture what's important and what's not that important. And therefore, I think in today's discussion, I'm sure we're going to cover it. Efficient workflows, 3D visualizations, and improved project outcomes would be a lot of benefits that the BIM processes can bring. So with that, I must say that real estate, the whole country, the whole world is going through a change, but real estate will go through a major change as well in terms of the technology that we're going to use. We're going to use some social distancing till we find till we find a resolution to the COVID-19, and with that, BIM will play a very, very important role. I just now welcome all the panelists, and with that, I'll invite Dr. C.V. Amarnath, who's the head of BIM strategy and president Indian BIM Association, to take over the session so that we can have a very good and fruitful discussion. Thank you very much once again to CII and all the sponsors. And I do think that this whole topic that we've now chosen will be really a good one for all the viewers that are viewing. Thank you very much. All the best.
Amit Gosain, thank you so much for the introduction. And I think that it's you can hear me, right? There's a lot of disturbance on the back. I think some people has to mute the mics and introduction.
Arshad,
I cannot
can we have everyone on mute? Arshad, if you can mute everyone except for the speaker, please. As he calls up, you can unmute them.
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning to everyone present here, and thanks for coming out during the weekends, and you have taken out the time for listening to us, and trust me, this will be a wonderful and fruitful session for you. And we have key experts from different sectors, from society, from the contractor side, from the client side, from the university side, and also from the tech vendors, from Trimble, Dassault, and Unity, and also from service providers. So it's a combination of experts from different backgrounds. Usually this kind of program will give you the understanding of BIM from different experts' perspective. And usually when you want to have digital transformation, it's very much important to have support from all these experts from different sectors. And anyhow, this is just a 2-hour session, but we have a limited time of 10 minutes to 15 minutes for each expert. We'll be just giving a brief introduction on these areas, and you will be able to connect with each of us for any queries on that particular topic. At the end of the session, you will have one panel discussions where we will be able to address your Q&As, and along with that, we'll be able to take up some of the key topics which are relevant for our Indian sector for digital transformation. To start with, I will just give you a brief on what's happening with respect to digital transformation in our sector, especially in the global market and also in the Indian sector. So it's about the brief on the trends so far. To just give you a brief introduction about myself, this is Amarnath. Bangalore is my hometown. I'm just based in Chennai now. I'm working as a head BIM strategy here in L&T Construction, where we take care of a lot of initiatives have been taken out in terms of skill development and for transformation within the company. And also I support the national initiatives as a president for India BIM Association, which is the key requirement for bringing the change in all the sectors, and for influencing these requirements and to support all the kind of transformation requirements. So you are welcome to connect us on these lines. So I'll just give you a brief introduction about this topic. Can everyone see the screen? I think able to show my presentation here.
Hello, Mr. Manath.
Yes, go ahead. You can see your.
I can see the screen, but I cannot see you actually.
Yeah, okay. Because the network is too low, so I put it on.
Okay. Fine.
Thank you. So I'll just take 10 minutes for a brief introduction about this topic, about what's happening in the global market. Before we go for what is BIM, people call digital twin, digitalization, digital transformation, building information modeling, virtual design and construction, city information modeling, infrastructure information modeling. People use so many terms for saying BIM. It's overall BIM. When I say it's a building information modeling, building is not a noun; it's a verb. Building the information into the model, which can be a building sector for infrastructure sector or a smart city sector. Whenever you say a particular facility is smart, either it's maybe a building or infrastructure as a city. So BIM is the basic foundation for having that done. So there is a small definition for this. I've taken out one interesting definition for you, but there are so many definitions in the Google. If you search, you'll find them. BIM is a set of technologies, process, and policies which enable multiple stakeholders to collaboratively design, construct, and operate a facility in a virtual space. This is from a BIM dictionary, and BIM dictionary will give you 700 plus terminologies which are very much important for you when you are working on a BIM projects. And I would request you to just have a review, just Google it and you'll find it. And when we say BIM, many people think BIM is just a technology or BIM is one of the software. That's one of the assumptions still many of us has, and it's very much important to understand the process and policies involved in standardizing the implementation of BIM in the projects. And I will just play a short video for you for your brief understanding on these lines.
BIM. BIM stands for Build Information Model. BIM is for everyone in the construction industry. In fact, you won't be able to escape it. BIMing is not a new idea, it's simply a fact and will only become more important in the future. But what actually is BIM? BIM is a way of working together. It's a methodology for the integral design, construction, and maintenance of a project with all partners. This is done by a mutual exchange of data, resulting in a complete digital description of a building project. From this description, a digital model is made, built up from a standardized object library. What is this? It's a dictionary of definitions of all items. For example, what exactly do we mean by a door? Their functions. What are the properties of a door? And their performance. What must a door be able to do? New objects can easily be added. You can use BIM with a bridge, a road, a tunnel, or a complete infrastructure, also with a building or a complex of buildings. BIM is available for the entire life cycle of a construction project, from design through construction, management, maintenance, even to demolition. Who works with BIM? With BIM, each individual party makes their own contribution to the virtual structure. The architect, the contractor, the builder, the consultant, the installer, the glazier, everyone. This works well as long as all components satisfy everything agreed upon in the object library. Only then is there one language understood by everyone. You can study the project and see the library components before construction begins. Information about construction, maintenance, costs, and safety all comes from the same source, BIM. But not everyone needs all the information. So BIM also contains an agreement about who can look at what and who is allowed to input to which sections. Why BIM? BIM exists to enhance the performance of a construction project or network infrastructure. This is possible because the information is standardized and available for the entire life cycle of the structure. With BIM, you get better cooperation and decisions are easier to make. In any case, it is a fact that with BIM, the sky really is the limit.
So I think this presentation would have given you the brief on what is BIM. Further to take on about what's happening with the global sector with respect to BIM. This is one of the survey which I've done in 2016 on the global trends in BIM research, where we have analyzed what's happening in almost 65 to 70 countries. So it has become a key change in the market. When you see most of these countries are doing the R&D in terms of BIM for different research areas. Some people are working on developing the technologies. Some people are working on developing the standardized workflows. Some countries are working on implementation of these BIM technologies and the workflows. Some countries are working research on how to take better return on investments on implementing this. Some countries are in better education and training on BIM. So there is a different research directions and these countries are working on. And if you want to go deeper on this topic, I would say just Google BIM research, you'll find the first article and you would be able to get a deeper understanding on what is happening with respect to different countries on BIM. And by now, there are more than 65 to 70 countries which are looking for BIM, and there is a lot of research and development happening in developing it. And what I would say is BIM is not completely matured yet. And by 2025, this is where the global market is looking in. A lot of changes in technologies which are evolving, which are coming to cloud-based technologies where it can be, the cloud vendors will be able to give you software as a service. And the next one, when it comes to process, a lot of changes are happening in bringing the lean workflows, standardizing the workflows in the BIM projects. The third, when it comes to policies, before you had organization level BIM standards, then became a national level BIM standards, and now there is ISO BIM standards coming in. So all of these things are taking step-by-step developments, and by another 5 to 6 years, I think BIM should be mature to level what we all expecting. We call it as integrated BIM, or even IPD, integrated project delivery for the procurement method. All these things comes into requirement when down the line. Coming to the next slide, this is just to give you a brief about the education in the global sector. This is another research which I have performed during 2017 on understanding the kind of education systems and what kind of methodologies are followed to deliver this education. It was interesting to see that BIM was not only taught in civil, architecture, mechanical, but also in law schools and also in management departments. And it's more of a multidisciplinary education. It's not for one division sitting in one classroom and learning it. And it's also about how different students and professionals from different countries collaborate virtually online and understand the different barriers for delivering any project. Because when we say about education, it should be more of a multidisciplinary and collaborative work rather than just a one particular discipline sitting and working. So we see that these many countries already have a better education system on BIM in the top universities at least. And in fact, in India, it's already coping up. Now we have BIM in some of the universities, and there's a lot of queries. And at least BIM as a technology is getting introduced. But there is a need for change, bringing in that BIM as an overall technology process and policy as an education system and for multidisciplinary. And this COVID situation is helping for these people to come together for an online education system. And it will also, I can say it's a kind of good move towards virtualization and digitalization. So this is about the BIM education evolution, how it has happened in the global market. BIM, what we are listening, for some of us, it's totally new for now. And for some of us, it's already 1.5 to 2 decades old. And BIM is not completely matured. So it's getting evolved day by day. So if you see in 1990s, some of the universities like Georgia Tech and Stanford, they had set up a research labs for this. And they have already worked on initiated interdisciplinary and distance collaborations. And during 2003 to 6, many universities incorporated this in their curriculums. And it was more of intra-course collaborations and single courses. And then many universities look into the benefits of having BIM, and when the clients have started demanding for it. And then the interdisciplinary and distance collaboration started during 2006 to 9. And the number of universities incorporated BIM in their curriculum, and this went to higher levels. And at 2010, it was more of a transdisciplinary, interlevel, and multinational collaborations, where you have professors from different countries and students from different colleges working on one particular program. And they work together from, even though they are from different disciplines and backgrounds, they understand project as a collaborative work and they deliver it. And during 2015 onwards, it was more of a transdisciplinary, interlevel, and multinational collaborations, wherein you don't have only faculties from the academic people teaching the programs. You also have researchers, you have professors, you have industrialists, you have policymakers developing these programs and teaching it. And also you will have a real life case projects and considering it for the program for the skill development. And the things are moving forward, and I think now it's a good time to go further for virtual collaborations and have BIM at a global level collaborative works. And this is happening in India in some of the universities already from 4 to 5 years, but it's required for most of the universities to adopt this culture. Coming to the mandates, because most of the time we say, until my boss asks for that, I don't want to implement. It's the same way. Until clients demand for it, the contractors and design team may not go with it. But still, it's exceptional case. There may be some companies who look into the return on investment and want to adopt it, and if they want to pitch into the global market. But looking into the kind of mandates happening in the global sector, this image will give you a brief on which are the countries where the kind of mandates have started. And it may not be at a central government level, but at least at state level, or key clients and contractors, or some ministries have started requesting for BIM for their procurements. So more than 25 to 30 countries are having this kind of understanding the benefits of BIM, and they started putting their requirements in RFPs and reports. And it's a challenging situation for the companies. It may be design contractors, PMCs, or a O&M, or consultants, or a client agencies to deliver the projects as per the requirements. And there's a lot of digital transformation happening within the AECO sector in all these countries. And considering some of the developing countries like India, the digital transformation happening at a higher level than many other countries, because it's a developing country and a lot of projects are happening, and infrastructure development and smart cities are on a higher level. And having this kind of framework of BIM and bringing that into the requirements will help most of the clients in getting what they expect. It will support you in the complete project management. BIM, as per my understanding, it's a kind of support for add-on for the project management, wherein you will be able to predict your time for the project delivery costing, which may not deviate more than 4 to 5% when you do the tendering through the BIM process, because you have everything clear with the models. And the kind of mandates, when the clients are seeing this is very clear picture and it will be very transparent, so they're bringing that as a mandates. And it's year by year, from 2010 onwards, from 20 till 22, there's a lot of mandates happening in different state levels and countries, and within different authorities. If you look into India, at least to start with, Airport Authority and CPWD is looking into this now, and some other client agencies and some of the contractors are also looking into this. Looking into what's happening with respect to Indian market, and this is again 3 years old, a survey which we have done through the society. It's about what are the barriers for bringing in BIM education in the Indian sector. So what we have done is we did a detailed survey, reaching out to the experts in these regions, as you see on the right-hand side map. And we had a dedicated tool developed for understanding what are the barriers. And we had a conclusion that these are the left side, if you see, these are the kind of issues that need to be resolved. And it's not that all these issues will be resolved by one particular player. It will be from different fields like policy field, technology field, and process fields. There's some set of issues that need to be resolved by policymakers, and some set of some set of issues by technology vendors, and some by industry players. So all these were all these are mentioned, and there's also an article on this in the India BIM Association page, and it's a detailed article. If you would like to go into that, you are welcome to check that. And this is the National Society. It's an India BIM Association. It's a registered national level not-for-profit society, which is mainly focusing on digital transformation. And you just Google India BIM, you'll find this website. And there's also membership for all. It may be corporate memberships, organizational memberships, institutional memberships, and also for individuals, for students. You just want to check in and you drop the applications, and any queries, you're welcome to contact on this email. And further to this, I would like to introduce our next speaker, is Raghu Babu. I'm just going to share his presentation. So, Mr.
Very good morning. Yeah, very good morning. Hope I'm audible.
Raghu Babu, let me introduce you for a minute. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Raghu Babu is a chief engineer from Central Public Works Department, and he's posted in Dharwad in Karnataka. And he has a BTech in civil engineering from NIT Varangal, and it's in 1989. And he has a Master of Engineering from Delhi University in 1991. And some of the recent major projects include development of NIT AP campus, and development of SPA at Vijayawada, and development of residential and non-residential building for IT departments, and is also involved in CAG, CBI, CRPF, BSF, CWC, NIT Nagpur, ICAR organizations, NABARD, ISRO, NAL, Manu Hyderabad, Mahatma Gandhi University, and many other central autonomous government organizations. And we would request Raghu Babu to present his topic on CPWD. Here you go, Mr. Raghu Babu.
Yeah. Thank you. And am I audible now?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Very good morning. And at the outset, I mean, I would like to really express my sincere thanks to the Indian BIM Association, CII, and the organizers. And so, I mean, I just take few minutes to introduce about our organization. Basically, like, like CPWD is a central government organization which was established somewhere in 1854. Like, it's one of the oldest organization in India. And we are basically a multidisciplinary department, and we have got expertise in almost like all fields of construction industry, starting from civil, electrical, mechanical, and most of the staff from CPWD, are recruited through UPSC. Basically, like you must have heard about UPSC. So I suppose like all of us are basically, I mean, academically well qualified. And our head of the department is called Director General. He is supposed to be technical advisor to Government of India. So that way, I mean, what I would like to stress upon is that the policies of CPWD are mostly being followed by many other central government departments, autonomous departments, and including railways, actually. So the policies of CPWD are widely followed in almost like you can say in the government construction sector. And we have got as on date a turnover of about 15,000 crores, having book value of about 45,000 crore rupees. And we have got actually ours is a pan-India department, pan-India organization, starting from, I mean, you can say from Himalayan to south and northeast to deserts of Pakistan, deserts abutting Pakistan. And to come into the main topic. So see, I mean, I know like Mr. Amarnath has told much about the BIM, and like most of us are still aware of that. And we are actually, as on date, doing many central government departments, and most of them are, of course, the major projects for IITs, NITs, IIMs, AIMs, and I think many of you must have already about Central Vista project, which is already expected to be started very soon, and like redevelopment projects in GPRO colonies in Delhi and many central government departments. And for all these works, generally, I mean, just to explain you about the method of construction, we follow the process of EPC only. So, but the main issue of coming to the GFC drawings is either we do supply to the contractors or we put it in the scope of the contractor. So, the main lacuna till what we have found is, even if at all we able to supply the drawings to the contractor, the drawings are not basically the BIM enabled drawings. They are basically something like, like AutoCAD 2D drafted drawings only. And so this, of course, we do keep in the scope of the contractor. And my experience of using these drawings like any other infra project, it is basically during execution, there are many times the clash of services. And this, this leads to a huge amount of wastage of time in coordinating meetings, organizing all the persons who are involved in this particular project, like all the MEP service consultants, contractors, departments, including my client department. All this happens, and this I have seen really has really led to a lot of wastage of time, and many people that really don't appreciate this, and they don't understand also. They think that, I mean, we are simply trying to take some excuses. So I really feel that, I mean, the best alternative with the available technologies is nothing but BIM. And that is the reason, from the last 1 or 2 years, even though there is no mandate in CPWD guidelines, but many of the chief engineers who are calling tenders, are making it mandatory in the tender schedules that the BIM tool should be used while execution. And like in the recent past, like almost all these IITs and NITs, like I would like to say that I think Mr. Senthil Kumar also must be knowing that IIT Palakkad also, we have made it mandatory of BIM implementation. Like this I am doing it in IIT Dharwad, and IIT Tirupati is being done, IIT Jammu also, and AIMS Jammu, and almost all these major projects now we started implementing BIM. But actually, I mean, let me also accept the fact that the percentage of the works, like what we are doing as a whole, and vis-a-vis the projects where the BIM has been implemented, is really, I mean, quite low, and really that needs to be implemented. I mean, has to be implemented in. I should really feel that it should be implemented even in medium level projects also. Forget about all these the so-called major projects. I feel that BIM has a great role to play even in medium level projects, and it is really high time to act. I mean, not only CPWD, I should say. I mean, for all the policy makers to act into this. Now, I have got 1 second, please. No, coming to the BIM implementation in government sector, I mean, to be specific enough, I have got some issues to, I mean, I request all the panelists to look into these issues. Like, I mean, there are many, what do you call, misconceptions among the engineering fraternity. I should say, I mean, let me accept the fact that even in CPWD also, and including, I mean, I have got many of my colleagues working in railways, MES, and the other defense organizations, and including their senior level positions in state government departments also. But almost all of them are of the, I mean, not all, I should say, okay, many of them are not having much know-how actually. Unfortunately, it is really unfortunate, but it is a fact. They don't have much knowledge about the BIM tools. And even if persons who are having some knowledge, they feel that it is basically meant for architects. It's not meant for engineers. Or it is meant only for the mega projects. Something like, like maybe the metro projects are projects of very high magnitude or very complex projects. So this really issue has to be really looked into. And in some of my projects, where the BIM has not been, of course, mandated or implemented, made compulsory condition of the tender. So with my knowledge, I mean, when I try to insist upon the contractors also, I mean, I don't want to name the agencies, but even the bigger players in the my contractors also, somehow they're really reluctant. Either they take the excuse of, they really take, I mean, some excuses of taking up this BIM business. And even I try to explain them about all the cost savings involved and during execution and the use of what the time saving or cost savings, but still somehow they show not much inclination. So really, I feel it until unless it is mandated. I feel this. I mean, it is very difficult that the staff as well as the contractors they are not taking much interest. And another issue, I mean, what I found is even in, I mean, of course, I have worked in bigger cities like, I mean, okay, two-tier cities like Vijayawada and Dharwad now where I'm working also. I'm not finding any proper BIM consultant in this one. I mean, either they're available in the major metro cities, whoever are available, they are very few, I think, like all of you know it very well. So it's basically this particular technology is not even penetrated among the consultants. And especially if at all you look into the consultants who are there in 2-tier or 3-tier cities, most of them have got no idea actually. And another issue is, I mean, many of the government departments, including CPWD, I should say even the other bigger organizations, like we don't have much in-house experience. And so we are really forced to depend on some external consultants only. So it is a hard fact, but it is to be accepted. And another excuse of many of these consultants or the contractors is that these BIM tools are really too expensive, and many, I mean, like even if at all I ask any of the consultant really to engage somebody or some staff, or either one is a non-expert is of availability of the expertise staff, or the software is really becoming. They find it used to be exorbitant. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, no, yeah, okay. And so coming to the, the conclusions. So I would like to have some points to express my thoughts. Like, so, the instead of the basic what do you call many people's thought like BIM should be used only in the major projects and all that. I really feel that BIM has really a great role. Of course, in addition to the major projects, it has got very great role to play even in the medium level projects also. Like in many of the government departments, the extent of the medium level works are really too many. Like, so it is high time that really we have to use it. And if and I really feel that BIM can do really do wonders in the especially in the present day scenario also. And Dr. Ramanatha was specifying, and it is high time that we have to really make it compulsory in tender schedules, so that it will be obligatory on the part of the department staff as well as the contractor basically to so that he will be using all those BIM tools. And last and but not the least, what I request the Indian BIM Association and BIMCrew and other this type of organizations to really, take some initiation in parting training or seminars among the government staff or government engineers or the private sector officials also, so that they can be explained about the advantages vis-a-vis the time and cost overruns and the cost savings. And especially, we have to involve the client departments of CPWD also, because these BIM tools have really a great advantage in the maintenance of the building also. So because most of the time, we construct and hand over to the clients, but many of the clients also should be appreciated about the implementation of the BIM in the projects. And and another thing is, coming to the cost, like what everyone of aware, and maybe the BIM as Indian BIM Association and other BIMCrew, they can influence the BIM tools firms to be more affordable, so that there is a much chance for penetration into the market. And one more last thing, what I would like to advise is that BIM should be made basically a part of curriculum also, and especially I don't know really which college or which universities are teaching this, but as far as my knowledge goes, in none of the IITs also have got this BIM curriculum. And maybe I think to begin with, at least this should be, if not a compulsory course, this can be made as an optional course at least. So this will, we can start having some good technical expertise instead of depending on external sources. Like this is what I feel. And if you permit me, then I can pass on to the next speaker, please. Hello, Dr. Amnath.
The next speaker.
Yeah.
So we have our next speaker, Dr. Senthil. He's currently serving as an assistant professor in IIT Palakkad, and he's also the board member for India BIM Association. Dr. Senthil is working experience industry and academia before at Oman, South Africa, Sharjah. He teaches and does research in the area of construction engineering and management, broadly, and technology adoption specifically. And he has published in many international journals, forums, and member of many professional bodies around the world. And Dr. Senthil, you're welcome for your presentation. I have shared your screen, and you will be able to present it. If you feel it's difficult, then I will ask the IT person to share the access to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Amarnath. I mean, without much delay, I mean, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Yeah, fine. So good morning, all. It's my pleasure to actually, meet you all in this, forum. And, thanks to IBIMA and then the other organizing agencies, CII and others, BIMCrew. Without much warming up, let me just get into the story. Like, yeah, we all know that construction is one of the significant field in which a lot of fund has been involved, and then it is also a significant contributor to the global GDP. It is true as well for the Indian GDP. Like developing countries like India has a lot of contribution which been made from the construction industry to the GDP. Yes, and the other side of the slide, if you see the right side, I mean, where there is a comparison of a global productivity growth trends. I mean, if you look at this, this particular graph, it simply says that construction is much low in terms of the productivity growth when compared to the other general economy, other participants, as well as it is way below the manufacturing industry. I mean, this is just a 2015 data. I'm sure that it's still valid with current situation or scenario. Yes. So with this particular note, I would say that there are a lot of reasons for us to actually look into the improvement of productivity in construction sector. Dr. Amarnath, if you can please pass the, yeah. Okay, so this is another kind of insight, a study which has been done by McKinsey and Company. I mean, they identified 7 key levers which were, which could improve the productivity to 50 to 60% in AEC sector or construction industry. So if you look at this particular graph, where you can see the 3 orange bars, where significant amount is, I mean, the scope is there, significant amount of scope is there in terms of technology adoption, and then improving the productivity, construction productivity. Yes, I mean, there are some other sectors or some other field through which also you can improve the productivity, which includes the collaboration and contracting, and I mean, kind of a modern contracting style. Or we can also adopt different methods in terms of engineering and design. And we also see the regulation, which is kind of an enabler, which has a lot of bearing, in my opinion, on all those different aspects. Yes. So, Dr. Amarnath, can you please move to the next one? Yes. Why digital transformation? I mean, let me just take a pre-note of my own experiences. And we at IIT Palakkad, we decided to go for our digital transformation in our project. And then we have a very good support from our top management. I mean, our director has understood the benefit of BIM, and then he accepted for us to go for a digital transformation in our project. I mean, the main motive behind our implementation of BIM started with the time, cost, and risks which we may face. I mean, we have already constructed our transit campus, which is kind of taken more time, and then as well as a little bit of overruns and all those things. And we have also encountered a lot of risk and ethics. Based on that experiences, we wanted to actually nullify all those things, and we wanted to improve the efficiency, quality, and profit in our main campus project. So that's the motivation behind for us to actually go for a BIM adoption. Next. Yes. So this is the introduction about our project. I mean, as you could see on the right side, this is the kind of a master plan for our campus project. So where you can see the left side of the small bit like a tail is the place where our transit campus runs. I mean, we have some buildings here. And the right side, the major chunk, around 450 acres plus, is going to be the main campus for us. And then the highlighted buildings in the red color, whatever it is, is going to be the phase 1A projects, where it has been, the tender has been, the bid has been over, and then the contractor is on board, the work is going on. And then, if you look at this, our campus, it is one of the serene location. Like you could see the different geographical features, like lake, mountain, and a lot of greeneries and other things. I mean, you fall in love with that. Yes. Okay. So I'm privileged to actually explain this in this forum, right? So it's a campus development project. It is, sorry, can you go back? Yeah, it's budgeted around 500 plus crores, and then it is executed in EPC mode 3. I'm sure that most of you might have aware of this EPC mode 3. I mean, it is nothing but like it's kind of, we fix the contractors as an EPC contractor. However, the design is going to be supplied by us. As the previous speaker, Mr. Raghu, said that, I mean, the IIT has already appointed designers, and these two design firms, one for academic zone, another one for the hostel zone or the residential zone, they'll give us the design document, and this document is going to be part of the tender document, and from there the contractor is going to take it up and then develop the whole project, I mean the whole campus, or execute the project. So as a part of this, we actually envisaged ourselves to use the digital technologies like BIM and common data environment and other things. So we included it in the tender document. We specifically mentioned like around 3 or 4 pages about the mandate of the BIM and the common data environment in our tender document, which has given a clear message to the contractors that they should actually transform all the 2D drawings which are supplied by us from the design consultants, to be converted into a BIM models before they start their construction work. Well, this is one of the conditions, right? And then there's a lot of support extended by our government PMC, CPWD, as Mr. Raghu said. I mean, we have a very good team here, and they also supported us that they wanted to utilize the digital technologies, but they are very skeptical about the skill scarce and all those things. It was there. I mean, it was there. I agree with you, and it's good that you brought it. And we have given an assurance that we will make sure that you learn along with the project goes, and then we'll win this particular kind of implementation of whatever it is, right? So the skill set was mandated to be enhanced, and all communications as of now, the status is all the communications are through the advanced cloud-based common data environment, and I would say that this COVID situation also created kind of a conducive environment for us, or climate for us, because without that, I'm sure most of the stakeholders are very much interested into do their communication through the usual means of email or WhatsApp or whatever it is. And this one has made us clear so that our meeting times are reduced and all those things, and remote meetings are enabled with the use of this particular common data environment. So I would say situation as a catalyst here in our favor. Yes. Next. Yes, this is something before we start our engagement with the main contractor. We, as as IIT client, we envisaged this particular workflow should be there among the different participants or the stakeholders of the project, because as I said, there are two consultants, design consultants, different consultants, and then a contractor and a PMC, which is CPWD, and then we as a client, and then we have appointed a TPQA as well, third party quality assurance agency. So we all have to work together for the development of this particular project. I mean, we come up with this, and then we started specifying each and every aspect of this collaborative working practice, and we come up with the CDEs, the common data environment workflow, and all those things. Something like this, you could see that. I mean, could see that there are a lot of agencies like architects, as I said, 2 architects, IIT, CPWD, and all of us are here in this. This is our envisaged, workflow and other things, and we are kind of over ambitious. Yes, we do agree. However, this over ambitious, initiative has brought us some results as well. We know that there are limitations in among all the stakeholders, but still, we thought of actually going with that. Yes. Next slide, please. Just an illustration. I mean, this is what the right side is what we were, envisaged, or we wanted to be and the left side is something which is happening, which happened, I can say, I mean, until the recent past. The usual means of tracking the issues and, collaborations and other things through the mail or phone or WhatsApp or whatever it is. And we wanted this to be, black and white among the stakeholders so that the information is seamlessly communicated to the different parties. Yes, next please. Yes. So when we try to analyze what has happened, why does the envisaged thing hasn't happened among the stakeholders? Then we could actually found an interesting kind of insights. I mean, this is one of the study which has been done by my PhD student back in South Africa, where we were investigating something like the barriers in terms of BIM adoption, both in intra-organization as well as inter-organization, like between the organization and within the organization. And it is the study which is meant for the professional service provider, construction professional service providers are nothing but the AEs, architect and engineers who are actually developing the design. Typically the design has to actually, or the BIM implementation has to start from, as Amarnath or all the speakers are going to tell, from the top, from the owner. But what happens is, most of the owners may not aware of, such existence of such technologies. And at least this AEs, architect and engineers or professional service providers have to educate them and then come up with this kind of initiative. Yes, Amarnath, can you please go through one by one all this? Yes, exactly. Yes, one by one, so that it will be easy for me to explain. Yeah, great, thank you. So the first and foremost thing was within that organization that somebody has to be taking ownership of a BIM execution, which is nothing but creation of a BIM role. Unfortunately, in none of the organizations now, except a few, I can say the contractors, for the namesake, there are roles which are created like a BIM roles, BIM manager or BIM champion or whatever it is. Even within the organization, PMC organization, we would like to have somebody who's going to be full-time as a, taking up a BIM role, which is not there, which is one of the disadvantage I can say. But fortunately, we have got a very good supportive CPWD team here with us in our campus. So they are actually sharing this particular role. This is one of the challenges which might have actually created kind of, realizing our envisaged destination. Yes, next. Yeah, top-down approach. Yes, we are fortunate again to have a top-down top-down support. Like are all top officials, starting from our CPM to from the CPWD, from our director to all our PMC members, were project monitoring committee members, were supportive enough to actually implement this particular BIM in our campus development project. And then the next one. So this is the place where we actually stranded, which has been heavily hit. Like when we try to actually implement in some of the collaborative workflow or work practices, we have been always, challenged with existing, legislation or something which exists, which follows the traditional way of delivering the project. So that definitely require a relook. I would request the CPWD or whoever in the government authority who has role to play in this in terms of writing their tender conditions and all standard tender conditions I'm talking about, has to actually take into consideration of all these different legislative requirements. I'll give you a simple example. Whenever a design document or something which is going to get changed, it has to be actually approved with a kind of a seal and green ink or whatever it is, has to be there, stored as a repository for audit purposes. This is one of the conditions which is there in the project as a general document. But when you are working as a CDE, I would say rather, there should be kind of a digitization, digital approval or whatever, something need to be enabled, and which has to be there in words in our in your existing tender condition or in your company's or organization's policies and other things. So that's where these two are related, like legislation and standardization uniformity of shared information and all the protocols, everything has to be set up for us to actually fly with colors. So, I mean, I would say that it has to happen from their end as well. I mean, I can understand that there are a lot of deficiencies or skill, upliftment need to be done within the organization, but we are ready to actually help them, and we wanted to actually go for it. Unfortunately, all our project team members, all the stakeholders I'm talking about, are very much interested to actually buy in, especially our PMC, CPWD team, has a complete project team buy-in which exists. Yes, next. And then the team workflow alignment has been done. It definitely demands a lot, because they have followed this for the past 10 or 15 years of their career, and then they wanted to actually follow a new way of collaborative working. And sometimes we may need to feel that we may need to tell them that collaborative working is sharing the data. I mean, but they are very much skeptical about, okay, if I keep the data in public, that may be kind of a lot of problems which may arise, which may hamper the progress of the project and all those and so on. I mean, there are some reasons which are valid, but we need to look into that and then resolve it. That will allow us to actually come up with an enhanced workflow which can assist us in terms of delivering the project with BIM. Yes. Yes, and then this is within the organization that what I have seen. I mean, we started stage by stage. We started training the, team wise. I mean, team after team, and then making them to peer learn themselves. I mean, they also. I mean, this COVID situation was kind of assistance to us, because their peers have enough time to actually learn themselves. And then they come up with kind of a situation in which, I mean, if they don't have any access or something, they started calling me at any time and then asking me, sir, this is what a problem is. How do we solve it? I mean, I was overwhelmed with their participation within the organization I'm talking about. I mean, it is from the architect side or from the CPWD side, we have got a very good involvement in terms of implementing this particular piece of work. Yes. Next. Yeah. And now here comes the professional institutions support. I mean, we don't have any professional institution as such in India, I mean, which is stronger enough in terms of accrediting or acknowledging the professional status of any personnel who is involved in that particular work. I mean, there are, say, for example, RICS and all those other guys, BSI, they have got their professional certification process and other things to to produce more and more people who are with the skill sets of BIM implementation, which is not there. And I hope Amarnath and team has actually taken steps to establish a professional institution which can actually take it forward. Yes. Next one. Yes. And then there should be awareness. I mean, if not the client, there should be at least the architect and engineering firms which have to actually go for it. There are other challenges which exist, but however, these are all some of the challenges which I have noticed during my experience here in IIT Palakkad. And if we can fix one by one, I'm sure that we can actually implement BIM in any projects in India, I can say. Yes. So that completes my presentation, Amarnath. Yeah. So we have to think, where are we now, and shall we buy? Definitely need to buy in the idea of digital transformation. In my opinion, yes. And thank you for listening my presentation. And I hope if you have any questions, we can have it later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sindh. And we have our next speaker, Dr. Vishal Singh, who is currently serving as an associate professor at IISc Bangalore. And Dr. Singh has recently joined IISc as an associate professor. Previously, he was an assistant professor on BIM and computer integrated construction at Aalto University, Finland. With more than 15 years of R&D experience in Finland and Australia, Dr. Singh's research focuses on technology-mediated transformation of the built environment, especially looking at the interaction between the products, process, and the people in the construction ecosystem. Dr. Vishal Singh, you're welcome for giving the session on how to critically think about BIM research and practice.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I understand that we are running about 20-25 minutes late, so I'll try to be quick. So as Dr. Amnath explained, I've just joined ISC and I've just formed a lab which will look into innovation and management of property, architecture, and construction technologies. And that's how the name Impact for Impact. And so far in the talks that you've heard and what you're going to hear in future from the rest of the presenters, you'll see that BIM has expanded into many areas. And we have at least 10 to 15 years of practical experience now with BIM across the globe. And perhaps this is the right time to reflect on all that experience, the practical experience, and try to figure out what is really that we are trying to achieve with BIM. And this is exactly what this talk is going to help you with, or that's what my assessment is. So that's what I call BIM thinking. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is just a quick snapshot of some of the projects I have done. I'm not going to specifically talk of any particular project, but just to give you an insight saying that there's a lot of diversity in how BIM can be seen. So there's a number of projects, and all these projects have been done with different colleagues. So you have top right, you have a project which is generative design, looking at automating site layouts, and then we have on top right, it's a digital construction workflows where you are looking at BIM construction management, supply chain management, and bringing in IoT together to track movement of equipment, people, resources, and so on. Bottom underneath that is a reality capture project which looks at taking data from cranes, which is basically construction images, and from there to build a BIM model as an as-built to monitor the progress. Bottom right is where we are looking at link building data, semantic web, and that's an area where there's a lot of work going on. In bottom center is where I'll talk more about in the next slide, and then bottom left is a project which looks at BIM and as a learning platform associated with BIM. So the idea is not to talk about different projects, but the reason I wanted to show these is to show that there's a lot of variety that's possible. And when you have so many things to do with BIM, when you are beginning or even if you're an expert, you have a lot of things to handle. So how do we declutter our thinking? And that's exactly what I've been trying to look at. So can we go to the next slide, please? So this is an illustration of a project Visual-Link, which was a PhD student who started in 2013. He graduated 2-3 years ago. So right, as you can see, initially the focus was on BIM for facilities management. And based on the initial discussions with industry partners, it was a great vision to say, you can walk into a 3D model and from there look at an object, and from there you can trace and find out all the details. So we looked at all sorts of interesting presentations. And then as we moved further, we realized that the 3D first approach was actually misleading, because facility managers or even operators, they are not conversant with CAD tools. They don't work with 3D tools. So understanding what really users need is extremely critical. So that's where the next iteration is where it's currently playing. That's the bottom one, where we had representations which allowed more flexibility to the user. And the node link particularly was useful because as long as you know where to start from, you can find out the relevant information. Top right, again, you can click that, please, is again just to show that, as we iterated and evolved, the tool evolved into much simpler form, something which, users are more familiar with. So even if you look at it in 2D, it's actually a smart 2D. So even those plumbing lines, they're actually objects. So they are not just 2D lines or 2D. So you can actually click an object and get all the object attributes and so on. So can you click the slides, please? Twice. Yeah, please click again. Again. Not on the video. So yeah. So the idea is to show what are the lessons learned from this particular experience. So the first challenge was that the 3D first approach, which is quite often with clients as well, is misleading. 3D is not necessarily always best. So that's a matter of representation. Of course, you can have 3D in there. The second part is, which I think Dr. Senthil Kumar also talked about, is standardization remains a challenge. So it's not just standardization of the objects, but also the processes, and as well as what you're trying to achieve. Standardization of the product that you are making. So that's the building that you are making. And another part then is that when we talk about BIM, we also talk about BIM as information management, not just modeling. And when an organization does not have a well-developed knowledge and information management practice, you are definitely not going to get the best out of your BIM as well. So you need to work on the knowledge management practice as well. Then the next part, which again was mentioned earlier, is the collaboration, transactions, and exchange, not just between the tools, BIM tools and non-BIM tools, but also between people and the tools and the people to people. On the right side, we have similarly, when you're working with BIM, you are working in a larger ecosystem, both ecosystem of tools, but also tools, people, the processes, and companies as well. So system dependencies need to be taken care of. We are still in a stage where we have a lot of manual processes and a lot of some automation as well. So when you have these two things working simultaneously, you'll have a lot of problems that you need to deal with. If you move into as is situation, if you want to monitor how things are on, current status of documentation is not very good. It's very patchy, so we need to work on that. And eventually, I mean, all these tools that we make are intended to support our decision making, and we are not yet there. So there's partial support, and there's lots to do. So that's what kind of is the experience from this project, but also from all the other projects that I listed. So can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is where I come to the lessons learned. And based on, so just to simplify, if you need to really think about BIM, whether you are an expert or a beginner, these are the 8 most important things that you need to consider. Representation, that is how you are going to represent it. Who is it for? Is it for someone else? Or is it also for a machine? So is it machine readable? The second is documentation. Again, the same. I mean, what is the purpose? Who is the documentation for? Is it for another person or is it for the machine? Then you have standardization. Again, standardization, there are many issues. Standardization not only of the object elements, but also of the processes and also of the building that you are going to try and achieve. Similarly, you can start thinking about transactions. When I say transaction, it's about exchange, knowledge and information management, automation. Automation is very central to BIM. So even when you think about basic things that's happening within BIM, like intelligent documentation, your basic analysis, code checking, you already have a lot of automation in there. And as we move forward, we'll see more automation in the construction process and all. So you need to consider automation as well. Eventually, as I said, you are going to help people make better decisions. So decision support system, that's what BIM tools are supposed to be. And you are never going to have a single tool which solves all the problems. You have to think in terms of ecosystems and systems that you are part of. Can you click, please? Yeah, so these are the 8 fundamental objectives of BIM, no matter what you're doing. Whether you are doing BIM for FM, BIM for construction management, BIM from supply chain management. My claim is that if you are considering these 8, you'll be able to cover your BIM strategy. Can you click next, please? Just to help you remember these 8 things, I've created a small phrase. So it's basically, if you remember this, you'll remember all these 8. KIM, trades, DSS. So KIM is your knowledge and information management. Trades includes the rest, and the DSS is the decision support system. Another click, please. Yeah. So what do you do with these 8 objectives of BIM, and how do you start thinking about them? So what you need to do is think about these 8 objectives. And for each of those, you need to ask these questions, which is the 5 W's and 1 H. Who is making the representation? For whom are they making the representation? Whether it's why is it being done? What is it that needs to be represented? Where is this representation to be done? When it is going to be used? Where it is going to be used? And how it is going to be done? And the same applies to all the other objectives as well. One more click, please. Yeah. And when you think about this who, don't just think about the human users. You also think about the non-human users, which include your computers, because you're going to interact with the tool, but also think about the equipment, because now we are going to use smarter equipment on the sites. So when you have considered these, I think that should be a framework which should help you in your BIM processes, starting to an expert. Thank you. Sorry, I had to rush it.
Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Samarnath, yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Thank you, Dr. Lachal, for giving a nice presentation within the short duration. And we'd like to introduce our next speaker. Arshad, can you give an access to Harsh Parikh for the presentation? So Harsh Parikh is a regional sales director for India and SARC Trimble Solutions. And he's a senior leader with over 22 years of experience in building and leading multicultural teams in pan-India roles. He has extensive experience working across the value chain with a track record of building strategy, driving organizational transformation and business turnaround, Key skills include cloud transformation, construction technologies, and fostering greater agility to the digital era. Proven expertise in strategy, operations, and sales with some of the largest B2B and B2C clients in India. He has led sales team and generated multi-million-dollar revenue for some of the world's leading engineering software companies in India. Harsh speaks extensively on the topics related to the future of construction technology and the transformative power of digital construction. Thanks, Harsh. You can take your turn here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amarnath, and all the two panelists. It was wonderful to hear some of the comments in past. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you.
But you're not visible actually. We can see you.
Okay, I just on the account of network connectivity, I wanted to save some bandwidth. So if you guys are okay, I'll try to switch it on. I don't think so. I think there is an issue. I'll just go ahead and continue on the time. So I think we heard in the previous comments. I think the first one was about the productivity in the construction. Very true that the construction as a sector has been lower on the productivity side, and that is where the whole conversation everybody is talking about digital transformation in construction. There are various aspects on the digital transformation, and I think digital goes everywhere. It is not only about one particular part. It is software, it is hardware, it is about the way we conduct, and each of these things requires on three sides, which is people, process, and technologies. So I think on the technology front, Trimble has been the pioneer in the construction technology provider, and what as a technology partner towards the industry, Trimble is trying to focus upon. I just limit myself to that, and in that process, I'm sure there are a lot of aspects we can talk and cover upon. So I don't need to highlight too much about BIM, but the only thing which I want to say, I think Dr. Vishal just mentioned, it is not about a tool. BIM is a process, and this process primarily is something what we call is consistent, coordinated, and computable model-based approach, which connects multiple stakeholders within a project, within its organization, and the other ecosystem partners, the overall project delivery. So that is BIM. It is not about a tool, or it is not about a software. It is about the multiple aspect of the project life cycle or the construction life cycle needs to be addressed in a very consistent and measurable approach. What Trimble is trying to bring on the table as the technology partner, and we understand the essence of this change, that why it needs to be done, and our whole philosophy is moving towards digital transformation on the process improvement as a technology tool. We call it the constructible process. I assume all of you would agree to the fact that the process improvement in the pre-construction, in the construction, and even at the operation and maintenance stage is the most important part, and that is right now in a very fragmented environment. Unless we fix that, it is always going to be challenging. So this is what Trimble's overall philosophy towards moving into constructible process and making the construction more digitally enabled, which is built on 3 C's: the connected, constructible, and content enabled. If we want to drive this constructible process, then these 3 things are very important from a technology standpoint, which needs to bring on the table and give to the industry. So I'm just going to cover these 3 aspects in my overall talk. So first thing is What is constructible? If you talk about constructible, let me just put my headsets on. There are some issues on the voice. So what is constructible? Am I audible now? Am I?
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
You're audible for us. Thank you.
So constructible is so first see the three elements: constructible, connected, and content enabled. So let me talk about the first aspect of that C, constructible. So when you see constructible, we believe it should be as built. I think Dr. Vishal also talked about it, that it needs to be as built. And when you say as built, the virtual model, when we are delivering, it has to come up with this virtual environment, and the smallest set of information which needs to go on the ground, it should be available. And your digital model should become your single source of truth, which has the every set of information which is required to channelize the construction. So please, I understand what I want to talk about when we are talking BIM. Primarily, we are talking only at the pre-construction stage or at the planning stage or inside the office. But if it needs to be realized in terms of the real benefits, then it has to go on field, and we need to be able to provide information which is required from the field level. And that is what we are talking about. As built means every information, the smallest nail which needs to be go on site, it should be available. There can be questions around that whether it is important to build or not to build. But if we are talking the right amount of information, which is important for channelizing your construction or execution, then it needs to be built across. And then the single source of truth, which is your digital computing model, should be able to deliver the required set of documentation for your site. And I think in our language, we talk GFCs. So unless these GFCs are directly taken out from your model, it is very, very difficult to realize the real benefit. And that is where like many of the industry partners or people who are so we heard Dr. Senthil, and before that, the foundation also talking about that there is a resistance. The resistance is because the people who are on the ground, they still get the information which are only engineering centric, but construction centric details are still missing on the ground. So the constructability is very important from the digital perspective. And I think this is a small illustration of it, that if you want to deliver this, this is how your model should be. Your digital model should have every set of information available, which can be transposed, which can be highly intuitive, and can be given to the workers also. So when we are talking BIM, my ask and my suggestion to all the industry partners, let's call it constructible BIM, because there can be various elements of BIM. So we need to be talking constructible BIM. The second thing is about content. Why most of the time people go for convenient BIM, not the constructible BIM. And convenient BIM, it means if it is taking a little bit of effort around building the information, we either pass the buck that from this partner to that partner, oh, that's an architect's job, that's a structural engineer's job, or that's a contractor's job, or that's a fabricator's job. I completely understand that this is correct. The responsibilities and accountabilities can be different. However, the single source of truth, if we are really looking forward for it, it requires a high level of content. And Trimble is committed towards delivering the precise content to drive this as-built model delivery in the pre-construction stage, which can be used for your construction delivery in the carrying. So I'm sure most of you would have experienced some exposure about 3D warehouse and extension warehouse. This is our conceptual tool, which at the pre-construction stage, I think everybody uses. We call it SketchUp. huge library of the conceptual models which you require to prepare a conceptual 3D model, because that is also part of the BIM process. The second thing, we have something what we call Tekla warehouse and the MEP warehouse, where we have huge content library available, which can be utilized by most tools, because these tools are open to be utilized by any platform, not completely symbol centric, but we provide these content to use by any of the platforms. And look at this is just the one tool I'm talking about, the size. 31 million items are available on these warehouse. And this is accessible to everyone. So rather than you customize or you create, which is time consuming, why to do that? Because Trimble is committed to deliver these contents and make them available to the industry, irrespective of what platform. So we believe in a complete open approach. And just to give you that highlight, that look at some of these MEP contents. These MEP contents, at times people need to customize in whatever the module or solution they're using. I want you to just have a look, just taking you that what is the content library we go across. You look at it, these are the MEP content library. I hope it is visible, and you look into it, that this is huge. It keeps on moving, and you can see like how many pages are there. You can basically choose these materials by your category: building, electrical, heating, cooling, mechanical. So if you just talk about, let us say, any of the mechanical component, just apply for it. It will give you all these mechanical components. You can search by the manufacturers, that for which manufacturer you would like to have. So what we want to highlight, the content is a very important part. So a lot of things, software comes up as a library, but most of the time we are challenged because these contents are not readily available, and we have to invest a lot of our time. So we are saying content is very important, and it's a technology partner we need to build this. Last but not the least is about connected. Being connected is very important, and in present situation, I think everybody is realizing that how important it is. What are the modes of being connected? It can be desktop, it can be tablets, it can be mobile. Today, each one of us probably use some sort of gadgets to be ourselves connected. Most common is mobile phones. And if we can leverage the power of the small device in our construction process, because it's not only BIM should be for construction, not only for design center. And that is what Trimble is committed to deliver to the industry, that it will be the most connected environment. And it is not only about these three platforms. There are upcoming technologies which keeps you connected across the life cycle of the project, and the technologies like AR, VR, MR, you should be able to join your digital and physical environment together. And I'll just run this small picture that how our customers have used this technology.
Mr. Harsh, the voice is not there for the video, right?
Is it there now?
No.
I think this is slightly on the lower side.
Quality control chat for layout. I mean, I'm constantly measuring with the model on my iPad. Coordination would be the main phase of the help for us.
forgot to highlight that this is what we talk mixed reality. It is so Trimble and Microsoft has partnered for this technology. The site, how the site people needs to see what has been done as a part of design. And you see what this thing is highlighting. The digital model is actually transposed in the physical environment on site, and whatever the clash management we do virtually and how things are going to be fitted, because this is as-built model, we are able to see with this mixed reality. So augmented reality and virtual realities are good in their own segment, but if we really want to utilize the constructible way on site, then we should be able to transpose our digital model into the real environment, which makes our life and task much easy and speedy. So we've talked quite a bit about the pre-construction stage and like how the digital technology is evolving, but ultimately the life cycle of the project is still very, very important. We still need to follow the workflows. We still need to report out and how Trimble is supporting that structure, that if you look at it, whatever we have done, it needs to be realized by our finance. It needs to be resulting in terms of some real value in terms of dollars, and it needs to be reported on. So we have the entire workflow mechanism to report out these things. So you can look at this dashboard, which talks about managing your documents, and it can be your model management, it can be your drawing management. It maintains your submittals and RFIs, keeps your minutes of meetings, have a fantastic way to compare your documents, different file formats, and then maintains the life cycle workflow. So just like in the manufacturing, we talk about product life cycle management. Here we talk about construction life cycle management, and how that workflow is supported should be in part. So it is not only about having a 3D model, a digital model with rich information, how you are making use of that rich data to ensure that our business processes are synced with the engineering, and we are able to channelize our overall labor, material, equipment cost on the field, and it is available in some kind of a dashboard. So I've just touched based on the software aspect from concept to commission. However, it is not only about software. This thing needs to be realized in terms of our machinery. So using our artificial intelligence tools or machine learning tools, IoT technologies, if that can be built with our machinery and our processes and people are equipped with that, we can deliver our projects with a lot of confidence. And that's what Trimble has been trying to do to develop the core technology. So I rest my discussion for this, and we will do session. Thank you all for patient listening.
Thank you, Mr. Harshpari, for the brief introduction on how Trimble can support in BIM for constructability. And we have our next speaker, Arvind. Arshad, can you give an access to Arvind for the sharing the slide? He likes to share it on his own. Meanwhile, I will be able to give a brief introduction about Arvind. Mr. Arvind Nilakantan is Head of Technology and Evangelism, India, from Unity Technologies. And he studied from Texel University, working as an evangelist for Unity Technologies in South Asia region. And he's a software engineer and a gameplay programmer with over 6 years of experience in the gaming industry, working for Nickelodeon Games for 5+ years and developing on 2 MMOs and 2 iOS games, in addition to doing research projects. Currently developing on Unity 3D and Java, previously developed on Flash and SFML. Strong in 3D math, fast learner and love to experiment with new game technologies, passionate about playing and making games, like acquiring new skills and to share the knowledge. Arvind, are you able to get an access to your slide?
I'm not. Yeah, there's actually two of me, so I need access to the other one. Yep, that's that's the one I need access to. Yep, thank you so much. Cool, great. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I now have access. Thank you so much. So thanks for having me on this conference. I'm very excited by this. Just going back one slide. Oops. So welcome to today's webinar. I hope all of you and your loved ones are staying safe. Today we'll be talking about applications of BIM through real-time 3D across the AEC industries. My name is of course Arvind Neelakantan. I'm the head of technology for the Indian subcontinent for Unity Technologies. So what we'll be going through, what you'll be hearing about today from me is what is really real time. It's a word that's being thrown around quite a lot, so I'll be explaining what that is. I'll also be showing some examples across design and construction life cycles, which is using real-time 3D. And finally, how BIM data can be connected using real-time 3D using Unity. A lot of the talks given by Mr. Amit or Mr. Harsh, Mr. Raghu, Mr. Sendil, Dr. Vishal, a lot of you folks can touched upon a bunch of topics that I wanted to talk about, so it makes my job a lot easier. So real-time products and services are disrupting pretty much every industry. Consumers today expect personalized real-time experiences. In retail, you can now explore any product online and have it show up in the door next day. Or in transportation, a ride is only a tap away. And in entertainment, you can watch any show at any time you want on any device and get personalized recommendations for what you want to watch next. Buildings, infrastructure, and manufacturing industries are no exception for this. They are becoming smart. Smart products are embedded into smart buildings that are part of the smart cities, kind of what Mr. Amit Gosain talked about earlier. And to win more businesses and grow, manufacturers need to deliver real-time experiences to their clients, collaborate in real time, and understand the behavior of these smart assets in real time to optimize maintenance and operations also. And right now, today, there is a real-time 3D revolution that's happening across industries. But what does it really mean? The industry has been progressing towards real-time revolution for many years, from design in 2D in the 1960s and 80s to the more recent revolution of 3D design that started in 1990s. But those 3D models were still viewed in 2D, which is on small screens, and models were either static and dead. And you might be able to spin it around, but you couldn't really interact with them. You couldn't really open a door or push a button or really experience much of anything. It is only recently that software and hardware advanced together to what we call real-time 3D revolution. And what we believe is this event is much bigger than the move from 2D to 3D. And according to Statistica in 2017, corporations, especially construction and engineering, spent about $362 billion on corporate training initiatives, and real-time 3D application spend is booming. Just in 2019, $18.8 billion which is spent on that. And this is evident because of the demand that we see for AR and VR engineers. It has grown to 1,400% just last year, and it is only growing this year. So real-time 3D is transforming the product and building life cycles across every industry, be it architecture, automotive, construction, engineering, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, and transportation. And as a result of these changing expectations and new abilities to meet these expectations, we are seeing this transformation happening not just in these industries, but I would say specifically in AEC sector. So what is Unity? What is this company all about? For designers, engineers, and trailblazers across AEC industry, Unity is the most versatile and widely used real-time 3D platform for visualizing products and building interactive virtual experiences. Unity gives architects, engineers, and designers the tools to create real-time 3D experiences and deliver better processes across the AEC industry. Fundamentally, we eliminate the friction with the smooth and seamless import of any kind of data, be it from Revit or Rhino or SketchUp or 3D Studio Max, directly into Unity while keeping your BIM data intact. In fact, a lot of these companies that we see here today, like Dassault Systems or Trimble, all of them are using Unity to create their services also. The AEC market is also an early adopter of this real-time technology. The benefits of visualizing a product in 3D or seeing a building in place on job in augmented reality or walking through it in real scale are enormous. Real-time brings the product to life. It accelerates schedules, and most importantly, it saves millions and millions of dollars in cost. That's a big leap forward for an industry where a lot of the stuff is still in 2D. In fact, while buildings are designed in 3D, like in Revit, they are then flattened back to 2D to read on paper or PDFs, which is kind of insane when you think about it. What is more readable? Is it 2D or 3D? And Dr. Vishal briefly touched upon that also when he was talking about the visual link tool. Incidentally, we saw a great uptake of real-time 3D technologies in the design phase when we were originally thinking about it, since designers and engineers had already worked in 3D and wanted to do more of that in 3D data. But real-time 3D is now being used across the whole product and building life cycles, from designing to engineering, construction, real estate sale, maintenance, and operations also. So let's look at what companies are doing with real-time 3D. Before I go there, while we were doing some research to figure out how exactly is real-time 3D being used, we identified at least 5 potential cases when we surveyed AEC industry specifically. And also the AEC industry came back with saying anyone who adopted real-time 3D started seeing the results of using this technology within 1 year, which essentially transforms to ROI. And 84% of them said they saw the ROI within the first 1 year. So let's look at examples. So when you look at the creation process, this is from a construction company called Mortensen. So what they had here was they were designing a hospital. Now the project is about detailed design. That's when many companies are using real-time 3D for design reviews, either internally or with clients, even with future users for the facility. So Mortensen lessened the high costs and immense risks of AEC medical projects by perfectly simulating a new hospital and operating room designs in interactive 3D spaces. Their clients can fully visualize and interact with their crucial medical instruments. They're also able to simulate it in their work areas and technologies to ensure optimal layout and ergonomics within this operating room. This means that major benefits like streamlined healthcare, more efficient staff, and lower costs were achieved using this technology. To further improve your design, you can also simulate and visualize how an asset will operate under multiple scenarios. That's when we see companies who are leveraging a solution by Unity called Perspective, where you're creating digital twins of full buildings and infrastructure. What you're seeing here is a bascule bridge that gets animated under different scenarios such as traffic lights, traffic density, time of the day, and such simulations help reduce costs by 25 to 30%. And we all know even a 1% reduction in cost in huge products like this translates to several crores. So now let's look at the building part itself. During the building phase, how do you unlock BIM to create collaborative augmented reality apps for construction? And Mr. Harsh kind of talked about it, where he was saying, I'll rather say, Dr. Vishal talked about it briefly, where he was saying site engineers, they are not really into 3D tools. So why even bother with going into 3D in the first place? And that's what we have solved in Unity today. So Shop Architects is an architectural firm in Lower Manhattan, New York, with projects located across the 5 continents. So what they did was, just gonna play this video. So Shop Architects built the AR app to overlay BIM models on the job site. Now this AR app was built on top of Unity's Reflect product. The app is used by JDS, the general contractor in the Deck Lab 9 tower, which is under construction in Brooklyn. There was a huge number of exterior window panels to keep track of, and Unity really helped. They wanted to visualize where they can have the construction process, whether they can visualize this construction process either in AR and VR, and they were also able to get live updates of that building in real time. So they could essentially watch the building being constructed in real time. And at the same time, even in the job site, they were able to get the site engineers to visualize exactly where a particular object needs to be, or a particular part of the construction site needs to be placed. And this is, of course, way more efficient than shuffling through thousands and thousands of pages in PDF docs, for sure. Next up is collaborating with Sweden-based Skanska, the 5th largest construction company in the world. A creative VR and AR company called Out Here developed a highly realistic virtual reality scenario for employee safety. So what you're seeing here is
with HTC Vive, we found the platform that we really.
So what you're seeing here is they work with Skanska to develop these VR scenarios that challenge workers, such as putting them into potentially risky situations and forcing them to make correct decisions that would give them a tangible reward. So the result was avoiding a serious virtual accident or injury. So the result of this was increased worker awareness of job hazards, fewer accidents by creating safer work sites, and it also boosted the worker productivity. And because you were able to create these training scenarios in real time, so you could essentially be creating construction training scenarios based on the current state of your construction site itself. So finally, let's go to the last stage, which is maintenance and operations, which is where also a lot of people are monetizing. So Visionary 777 uses Unity to create augmented and virtual product experiences for events and customers' point of sale experiences, which is then creating a deeper customer engagement and accelerating the sales process itself. And in construction sites, after the project is delivered, you need to maintain and operate the facility for a very, very long time. And this is a very similar example to what Trimble had shown just a while ago. And we know that during the maintenance operation facility part is where 80% of the building cost is going to take place. And many owners are using real-time technology to visualize and analyze the data from sensors such as HoloLens. And that data is then used to guide maintenance and repair in a real physical asset. So if you're a young technician and you've never operated a complex construction machinery, you can essentially check with this operational tool to see if it is whether safe to press that red button or not. So as we saw, real-time 3D is being used across the entire building and infrastructure life cycle by thousands of AEC firms across the world. And the results of that is quite evident. So if you look at the real-time 3D is making business impact across the product life cycle, from saving money from the design phase to the building phase to the maintenance and operations phase. And it is also saving considerable time through the use of simulation. So now what happens when you connect all of these cases? This is the current way of working. You have suboptimal designs where you have limited insights on the actual product during the design phase. Even during the design phase, you have design flaws that are caught late, design not passing the engineering constraints, or costly design modifications are required. Once this design is passed on to the building phase where the construction begins, there's already inefficient or insufficient design for the manufacturing and construction teams, which also then leads to redesign. Then you have design gaps which exist on the on-site condition or on the site, which then leads to change orders, which then lead to design changes again. Then when you get into the maintenance and operations part, there is marketing, which has to once again redesign all of the 3D models that already exist. And anyone who is doing services or maintaining of the product have no design data. They have no context as to what they are exactly maintaining and designing. They have to go through pages and pages of manual data, which is not efficient. Instead, and that's what we are trying to solve here. So using real-time 3D in the central, you have a digital twin platform that is a single source of truth for the digital model. It's kind of what Mr. Hush talked about. All data is in one augmented virtual model. You have real-world data mapped over the digital model. You are able to connect virtual and real assets. You are able to have real-time consumer experiences, which then translate into driving higher sales and customer loyalty. You have real world usage and insights which are then understood in real time. And real world usage feeds better design. And finally, you have predictive customer services and maintenance, which means there is a user centric design improvement that's happening all the time. So if you want to know more about how you can accelerate communication in the AEC industry using Unity, and if you want to generally know more about how Unity is helping with helping the AEC industry, you can go to this link called tinyurl.com/UnityAEC 2020, and you'll be able to get more information about it. So hope this was helpful, and at the end of this webinar, we'll have a Q&A session where I'll be more than happy to answer your questions for you. Thank you so much.
Sure, Arvind, thank you so much for the brief introduction on how Unity can support in real-time 3D application for the AC industry, which you covered all the three: design, construction, and operation phase. It was pretty interesting session. And the next session is by Mr. Lakshmi Narasimhan. Ashrat, can you share the access to Lakshmi Narasimhan? Meanwhile, I will just give a brief about Mr. Lakshmi. Mr. Lakshmi, you got the access?
Yeah, I got it. I'm just sharing my screen.
So Mr. Lakshmi Narasimhan, he is a CC&T Sales Director for Dassault Systems, and he is from IIM Bangalore. Close to 19 years of experience across products and service companies, and close to 6 years of experience in global OEM and Mahindra, and rich experience in PLM and CAD CAM CAE domains. Implementation of digital manufacturing solutions across R&D and multiple plant locations in M&M. And Mr. Lakshmi, it's your turn now. And Lakshmi will be giving a brief introduction on building lifecycle management on how to achieve BIM level 3 requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Amarnath. Good afternoon to all of you. I know that we are almost like 30 minutes or 30 minutes late. So today what I'm going to talk about is the topic is building lifecycle management and how we can kind of achieve BIM level 3 using this lifecycle management solutions. Okay, so moving ahead, I hope all of you can see my screen. Maybe one of you can confirm. Dr. Amarnath, you can see my screen, right?
I can see the screen, but you're not visible.
Oh, that's okay, because I have cut down my video. We just will save the bandwidth for otherwise there will be a lot of participants. Okay. First thing, couple of slides I'll spend time on what is Dassault Systems. I represent Dassault Systems, and we call ourselves as a 3D experience company. So what my previous speakers all have said, the context is that everybody, especially what Arvind said, the context is people are looking for experience. Whether you look at Netflix or Amazon, or whether you look at Google, or whether you look at any other experience, today people want experience in every activity that they do. So Dassault is known for 3D experience platform. We are a platform-driven company. So we would like to call ourselves as a purpose-driven company. So what do I mean by that? So we help our customers and users to combine their creative juice with the relevant science and technologies to create a more sustainable world. Okay, so this is what we stand for. I don't want to spend too much time on people doing or not. In interest of the time. So moving ahead, this is more important. This is where I'd like to spend more time on the legacy, what we carry. As Arvind was setting up the context in how 2D evolved to 3D and then 3D to real time. So Dassault is the pioneer with the 3D design technologies in the early 80s. Okay, we started with the CATIA, which is our 3D design software. Today, of course, we have taken it to completely different level as to what Professor Vishal was mentioning about generative design. So we are the pioneers in generative design as well. So we started with 3D design, and we were the first to come out with the digital mockup towards the end of 80s, where the complete Boeing 777 aircraft was completely built as a digital twin on our platform. Okay, so to summarize about what legacy we carry and where we are heading, if we look at to the right side of the screen, so we are moving from things to life. In fact, we started with digital twins of products to cities and infrastructures to now we are trying to create digital twins of human beings. That's where we are probably the situation wouldn't have been more apt in terms of the current crisis that we are all going through, where using our platform, we can actually create a digital twin of human and figure out how the drug discoveries and the vaccines will be able to help and how it will going to react and support us in this COVID-19 situation. So this is the legacy that we have. So we can understand the kind of spectrum that we cover with our solution on the platform that we have. Okay. Moving ahead, just to resonate with what Dr. Senthil mentioned. So yes, construction industry. Over the last 20 years, if you look at the productivity growth that we have seen, the manufacturing industry has kind of grown by 2 times. The construction industry today, we are still lagging. Okay, we are more or less been at the same level over the last 20 years. So what do I mean by this? Okay, everybody talks about if you speak to a guy from the manufacturing industry, so he'll say that we are looking at Industry 4 revolution. Okay, so unfortunately, construction industry is still either we are at a first or a second revolution. Okay, so the desired state is to move to cyber physical systems where we today people are talking about model-based construction, model-based manufacturing. So this is where we would like to kind of take people construction as an entire ecosystem to the revolution of current generation, where we call it as cyber physical systems. Okay, so that was about setting the context. And if you look at some of the studies that have been going on in the industry, of course, a lot of studies and research data were shared by Dr. Senthil also. And I would like to quote one of the research that was done by Boston Consulting Group here. So the potential that we will see in terms of the just by cost reduction, okay, is that close to 1 trillion opportunity is there. Whether you talk about vertical construction or you talk about linear construction, which is could be like roads, railways, and all that, or if you even look at the industrial plant constructions. So everywhere it's in the range of 12 to 15% or 16% of cost reduction can be achieved. And the predominant sectors is design and engineering, construction and operations, but it is heavily on the design, construction and operations kind of segment, because design, I would say, is more or less kind of with my colleagues, what were mentioned from Trimble or Bentley, especially with, or Autodesk for construction industry. There's I would say, a relatively decent level of maturity has been achieved in terms of design and engineering from a technology point of view. But there is a huge scope for construction and operations. Okay. Now, having said the context, what are the drivers or what are the challenges that businesses face today? Whether it is buildings, or whether it is infrastructure, or whether it is industrial constructions. Today, there is an increasing need. There is a study which says by, I think it's by McKinsey, where by 2050, almost 66% of the world's population will be living in cities. So you can imagine the amount of need that we might have to develop the cities. Okay, and there is increasing level of financial risks on the construction projects because of on the same side, if you look at dichotomy, as I would say, if you look at today's current scenario in India also, from a real estate point of view, almost the occupancy is only around 70% because we don't have affordable houses, or what I would say the value for money. So how do we kind of, with there are a lot of initiatives in government also with PMYA, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, where we want to kind of build buildings which is more affordable for people. That's another challenge that we have. Then there is increasing focus on sustainability. So it's a huge topic in terms of how do we reduce the carbon footprint. Okay, and then of course there is a lot of regulations which is adding a lot of complexity, a lot of compliance requirements for the AEC industry as to how to kind of comply with all this. So having said this context, what is building lifecycle management? How do we achieve BIM level thing? Because I'm being positive here. I know that BIM has already made progress for the last 20 years. Even actually the real-time progress is not just from an academic point of view, even from an adoption in industry. So my next slide speaks about where we are today, but how do we kind of reach BIM level 3? Okay. But as I said, with a lot of industrialization techniques that we have seen in the manufacturing industry, with the industrialized construction, AEC industry can definitely improve in planning, design, construction, and assembly to kind of deliver increased sustainability, optimized operations by driving lower costs and greater safety. Okay. So what is BLM? It's nothing but BIM plus PLM, which is product lifecycle management. I think Harsh was mentioning about product lifecycle management. So Dassault being a pioneer, being a world leader in the collaborative 3D technology and the PLM applications. So we would like to kind of advocate for common understanding of, because I think Mr. Raghu Babu was mentioning today, the awareness about BIM is not there. There is a lot of skepticism. So DASO as a company would like to, as a technology leader, we would like to kind of advocate for a common understanding of what is BIM, what are the levels of BIM, where do we stand today globally, and then how do we kind of extend the collaboration across the life cycle of asset or a building or an infrastructure. Okay. So what is BIM? Where do we start? As you can see, reflecting back and resonating with what my predecessors have already said, the context. The revolution started somewhere in the 1990s where people started with CAD. So the formats were only drawings. In fact, it was first manual and then it was like the system-driven 2D drawings. Okay, where there's a lot of standards were also introduced, BS standards and all that. And what were the tools? Predominantly, it was paper, pen, as I said, the drawing sheets. Then we moved into 2000s where 2D and 3D, the BIM maturity moved from level 0 to level 1, where we started talking about 2D and 3D for the AEC industry, where the formats also started progressing from just being 2D to 3D. And people also started talking about collaboration. And there was much more number of standards introduced. And of course, people started moving from papers to files and libraries and catalogs and all that. So this is where the BIM started maturing from level 1 to level 2. By around 2010, the industry started touching upon level 2. And today, this is a study roughly around 2015 done in UK, how the governments have started, like Mr. Babu was mentioning, how governments and government bodies can also kind of make it mandatory as part of the tendering process, how BIM can be made mandatory. So in fact, UK and other global customers have already started making BIM as a mandatory deliverable in every project that the contractors or the subcontractors are being awarded. So now, what is BIM level 3? Moving ahead, how do we make these kind of files or the data that is being developed, whether it is in design phase or whether it is in the construction phase or whether it is in the project management phase or whether it is the data with the fabricators and suppliers, how do we kind of make it more transactable so that how the same data gets leveraged across all these spectrums of design, supply, manufacturing, and even the operations and maintenance. So that's where the BIM, building smart kind of institutions and open BIM are all supporting standards such as IFC, IDM, and BCF, okay, Industry Foundation class data, okay, where Dassault Systems is already making huge progress, and we support, of course, IFC version 4 kind of format, where it's a common platform or common form of data. And of course, as Mr. Vishal was saying, we have moved on from being a file-based systems to object-based systems. So basically, everything is stored in the database. So you don't have to worry about file management. You don't have to worry about the complexities of version control. Okay, so everything is object-based. So automatically, since we have a PLM as a base, so you can be rest assured in terms of the lifecycle management, in terms of the workflows, in terms of version control, everything. So with this, the construction industry can definitely leverage the industrialized practices in how the information gets flowed right from design without losing the design intent from architects and designers up to the builders and fabricators and operators. Okay, so this is what I mean. So now with current level of BIM level 2, what is happening is, yes, definitely we have seen the efficiency improvements, we have seen benefits, but it is all logged in the silos. What do you mean by that is, today if you look at AEC industry, this is where the 4 buckets, this is how the industry is being bucketed. As Arvind was also talking about these buckets. We have design team, where the architects and engineers and consultants will fall into. Then we have supply team, where predominantly the building product manufacturers and fabricators will all fall into. And then we have construction team, which is predominantly driven by general contractors and subcontractors. And then we have operations team, which is predominantly the owners and operators or the facility management systems kind of companies. So what is happening is, within each one of these silos, there is a lot of efficiency which is being kind of seen and adapted using BIM today. Okay, but still, if you speak to each one of these players, if you look at the number of projects that they handle and the amount of files that they have to manage, okay, and the amount of RFIs that goes back and forth, okay, it leads to 3 main problems. There is no data integration, there is no document continuity, and there is no process simulation. Okay, which is what is leading to, because the design team, when they share their output, which is predominantly the permit drawings, okay, what I would call is a common term in industry, which it goes to supply team or the fabricators. He has to kind of reprocess the data and come up with his shop drawings or the fabrication drawings. Then when he kind of hands it over to the construction team, then they have to kind of come up with the sequence drawings where they have to kind of identify how the kind of construction has to be done. And predominantly today, because of these silos, it is the top-down approach is being adapted. Okay, there is, because he comes up with his own documents of as-built document, and when he hands it over to operations team, okay, there is no kind of because the operations team comes up with their own data, there is as maintained documents, as maintained facilities, and they come up with their inspection documents. So there is no common platform or a transactable data. So that is where we stand today. So if you talk only about BIM, I would say from a Dassault point of view, it is predominantly product centric, because if you could see one of, I think it was Dr. Senthil's presentation where I saw BIM for document management, BIM 360 for design, BIM for building, and BIM for, yes. So we have to kind of have multiple applications because it's a product centric. Whereas if you move to product building life cycle management, which is predominantly an activity centric, or it covers the entire life cycle. Okay, it covers the entire spectrum of who, how, when, and what. Okay. Now, having said this context, by adapting BIM level 3, what do we achieve? So all these four players, design team, supply team, construction team, and operations team, they can leverage these 5 processes, which is resonating with what my previous speakers have all been kind of advocating till now. So we can start building 3D based digital mockup, okay, which will help you to kind of, whether it is your proprietary data formats, or whether it is being all our popularly Autodesk products, Trimble products, Tekla products, Bentley products, or we can move towards an IFC standard, okay, take that data, then build a digital mockup of the entire facility, whether it is a building or an infrastructure. Do your design reviews, as Arvind was talking about. So as Arvind was talking about, how do we do design reviews based on real-time 3D data? So we can do design reviews, and then we can do simulations. When I say simulation, we can do both process simulations, we can do performance simulations, we can do predictive simulations. Okay, and then how do we do execution virtually first, construction execution? Okay, so that you can come up with the right work breakdown structures and right work packages, and then the same data can be kind of passed on to the facility management or operations team to do life cycle management. And this is not a linear thing; it is more iterative in each one of these processes. So you will have a continuous. This addresses the data-driven continuity, so that there is a complete connect right from the authoring of the data to the kind of downstream applications of supply, construction, and operations. So this is what we can achieve with the extended collaboration. Okay. So moving on. So what are the outcomes of building lifecycle management? It improves productivity. It increases the quality and safety, and of course, its value for suppliers. It improves the environmental compliance and sustainability by reducing the cost through reduction in rework, reducing the number of RFIs. Because today, if you look at any construction project, from the studies that I have done, there is easily 15 to 30% of cost overruns, and there is separate 20% buffer kept to kind of handle any risks. So you can avoid all this if you have an extended connected platform with steady-based experience. Okay, and of course, if you are an early adopter, you can gain a competitive advantage. I don't know if it's a coincidence, the kind of names that Arvind took, where Unity is working with, the shop architects, Skanska, they're all customers of Dassault Systems. So if you look at some of these pictures here, it's all live where customers have been. If you take any world-renowned architect, Zahadi or Zanner, everybody's leveraging the experience platform. Okay, so what do we? This is my concluding slide. So with the 3D experience platform, so what do we get? Of course, we get the full visibility right from data, right from authoring stage to plan and the concept stage to the maintenance, operations and maintenance stage. There is a full traceability and compliance. The versioning of data and change management is all given because it's a platform driven, and we have been the pioneers in the product lifecycle management because we have been working with 11 industries over the last 40 years. Okay, so you can imagine the complexities because we are the pioneers in aerospace and automotive. With the kind of variants that I have to come out with the kind of complexities that I handle today with millions of parts. So AEC industry, handling the data of the AEC industry would be like kind of really a cakewalk. I'm not undermining the efforts in AEC industry. What I'm saying is with the platform, it will be really useful for users to adapt and leverage and get benefited out of the capabilities that we have. Okay, of course, we are both available both on-premise and on-cloud. So situation need not be more apt where everybody wants to get onto cloud and digital transformation today. So we have everything on the cloud. Everything is out of the box available. We have standard BIM templates. We support all the open standards like IFC, IBM, and everything. Okay, and you don't have to worry about the performance. Okay, so a lot of our big automotive and aerospace customers are leveraging 3D experience on cloud. Okay, so this is how I would like to conclude my presentation. So thank you very much for all your patience. So if anybody is interested in understanding what Raso Systems is all about, you can get in touch with us. Or we also have a huge community of CATIA AEC. You can just type CATIA AEC on YouTube. So you'll have hundreds of videos which will tell you what we can do in terms of Mr. Vishal made a lot of kind of what I would say important topics about standardization, knowledge management. So our entire core is based on component-based design, which is automation, okay, with generative design. So, and in fact, coincidentally, we promote something called a 6W tax. So, which is nothing but what he said, 5W and 1H. So that is what we kind of call it as a 6W. So we support all of these technologies, all these requirements of the industry. So that's how I would like to kind of rest my presentation. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Raman.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmi, for giving a brief on how the Dassault system can support in building lifecycle management and achieving for the integrated BIM, which is level 3 BIM. And we have our next speaker. Arshad, can you give me the access because Sonali want me to share the slides? Arshad?
Yeah, given.
Okay, just a minute. No, I don't have the access yet.
Can I give the access to Sonali ma'am or you?
To me.
Okay.
Okay, got the access. Thank you. So let me give a brief introduction about Ms. Sonali. She is a director and she's a director for XLI Software Consultancy Private Limited. And she's also supporting for the national initiatives like India BIM Association and also for the BIMCrew. She's a strategic BIM and digital construction specialist with a strong passion for new technologies in the AECO industry. She's an industry leader and BIM evangelist for more than 15 years. Speaker at BIM conferences and seminars worldwide, providing a BIM thought leadership and mentoring to young professionals. She and her company has been involved in implementing partner for Asia's first 5D BIM implementation for metro railway projects, along with the international airport and one of the world's largest convention centers. They are into strategic consulting for facility maintenance and BIM integration for a super specialty hospitals in Doha. And Ms. Sonali, the session, I'm going to support you in sharing the slides and go ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'm stopping everybody from lunch, so I'm not going to drag this for too long. I'll be very quick. I guarantee that. Till now, we've heard the speakers talk about at an organization level how they envisage implementing BIM, what steps they are putting in place to do it. And then we've heard from experts on what their vision is, or rather what the future of the industry is, what is the possibility. So I don't want to touch on any of these aspects. I'm very quickly going to walk everybody through a case study. This is, like Amarnath said, a hospital that we worked on in Doha. It's an operational hospital since 2016. They were already using some CAFM tool, but they had a big challenge in terms of trying to connect the CAFM tool to finding the asset. if they wanted to service it. So they put out a tender to build a model, and that's how we are part of this project. Can you go next, please? That's just the view of the building. It's a very high-end women and child hospital. Next. So what were the different disciplines or the components that were part of the model? This list is very extensive and exhaustive. I don't want to read a lot out of it, but if you see the AV systems, fire alarm systems, or the sprinklers, or the cooling towers, LPG tanks, everything that could be potentially an asset that needs to be maintained was part of the model. So when we had to start building the model, for input, we got a set of 2D drawings, and then we got their whole asset register. There were extensive meetings for a few months just on trying to understand what their goal was. So it was not something that take this, walk out of here, build whatever you want to build and come back. There was hand-holding involved in this also. Next slide. This is a couple of images of the hospital building. There are multiple buildings here, but this is the hospital building. Next. This is an actual photograph of the site. Next one. This is just showing all the integrated architecture, structure, and services in the model. Next. On the left, you will see image from the model, and on the right is the operation theater actual photograph. So if we talk about equipments also, which have to be maintained being part of the model, to that level, we had to build a model. And the goal, again, like I said, it was an FM integration for a project. So everything is part of this model. Next photo. This is from a patient room. You might wonder why we have that waste basket also, but that was an asset that they maintain, and so it's part of the model. So they literally had an asset ID defined for a waste basket. You can also see that there are a hand sanitizer, a soap dispenser, your switchboards, and everything in the model that is built. Next. This is the patient, the nurse's station. This is the photograph. Architectural finishes were also some assets, not all architectural finishes, but fixed architectural finishes were assets they were maintaining. So the flooring pattern is built into the model. Essentially, it is the way it was built and the way it integrates with FM is based on the space in which that finishes, and the different types of stone or carpets are identified in the model. Next. So when we first started, we had to understand from them and give them an understanding of what are the different types of we had in the directory and what out of that could be part of the BIM model. So point assets is very easy. This is all your fixed furniture, movable furniture, your plumbing fixtures, everything that is close together like an equipment. Next. Then we also had linear assets, which is all the piping, the cabling, the plumbing lines, everything that is moving from one zone or one space to another. Once we had this distinction done between a point and a linear asset, then we had to do work around to find what linear needed to be part of the asset register and part of the model. And based on that, again, the model was built. Equipment is very clear. It's maintainable. It's easy to build in a model. It's there. Linear assets with a bigger challenge. Next. So what we did is for the as-built model, we had the FM register from them, which had the asset IDs. We had the specs from them. Using that, you can just go next. Using that, we build the asset information model. No, go back, please. Yeah. So everything that is the O&M manuals or the vendor list, maintenance registers, these stayed in the FM tool. They were not part of the model. We have not linked any of that data into the object properties of the equipment also, primarily because nobody was going to use the model to access that data. It was going to be accessed through a facilities management software. Next. So if we look at biomedical equipment here, so this is a cart. Can you go next? What is it that we have tagged in the model? We have a CAFM ID. We have the location saying which building it is, which floor it is, which room it is, the asset. They had different categories of equipment. This was a biomedical equipment. So that's written here. And then the most important part in this case is the CAFM ID and the Sidra asset ID. These are the two numbers or the two IDs which are being read in the FM software. And that's how the link has been established. So the image on the right is from the FM software telling you what that ID is. And if you want to locate it, you can find it in your model. Next. So we looked at what was happening with the point asset, but in terms of a linear asset, we had to set up parent relationships. So if they wanted an AHU had to be serviced, we needed to know what is the area that AHU is servicing, what will get affected. And so for the duct assembly, this is again a linear asset. For that duct assembly, we went ahead and tagged it to our parent. And that's how when you select your parent as a asset, you can find the child, or if you select any duct assembly, it will tell you who the parent is. Next. So what are the challenges? Yeah, it's okay. You can go next. You can go. The challenges that they were facing is they had 30,000 plus CAD files. A lot of it is departmentalized. Facilities department would have to reach out to the planning department, to the engineering department, and then it would get serviced. Once they serviced it and they made any changes, it was never updated in any drawing. So next time you needed to service, it could not be found. I mean, you couldn't guarantee that what you saw on the drawing was what was there. And they were just wasting too much time because of this. So once the model is in place now, they've actually linked it to the FM tool. We finished this work in December. So last 3 months, I don't have much of an update, but till March end, they were spending a lot less time in finding data. It was just very easy to locate because they had the model linked to their CAFM. Their time to search for the asset didn't drop down. But once the asset was located, visualizing it, that helped them a lot. And they had assets which were maintained by different entities, like an AMC. So they were maintaining their own assets. And tracking whose asset it was also helped a lot for them. We have a 5-year maintenance contract with them. So it's assured from their end also for the next 5 years, this model is going to be updated for any changes they do. And hopefully it doesn't break down. Again, it's just, I cannot comment on what will happen 3 years down the road. Technology may get obsolete, but right now we are on track to what was envisioned and what has been done. Next. A little bit about Excelize. We started this company in 2004. Currently, we have an office in Aurangabad in India, Qatar, and US. And we are part of the Nagpur Metro's implementation team for the owner support office. We worked on the Mumbai Airport Terminal 2 way back when it was under construction. We've done a lot of IT parks. Besides being a BIM consultant and a BIM service provider, we also, like Mr. Amarnath mentioned, a lot of strategic consulting. So we are working with some of our clients, hand-holding and helping them set up their BIM adoption and implementation strategies. We are not a very big company. We are a small company of 80 people, and we like it that way. So we've been very careful with careful. No, we've been very lucky, I would say, in the work that we've done. And I am myself an architect, but more of a technologist right now. Thank you. I think that's the last slide.
Thank you, Sonali, for quick presentation and for not taking most of the time. Anyhow, I think we still have some time for Q&A and panel discussion.
Sure.
So we will continue with that. So do we have any questions from the team already? So let's check from the audience side.
Dr. Amanath?
Yes.
This is Raghu.
Yes,
yeah, I mean, one small, requirement. I mean, what I feel like after listening to all the speakers, I mean, there is no standardization of specifications, especially for, I mean, now today's agenda is for the building industry. What I could understand is there is no standardization because people are using their own terminology. Like somebody uses, level 1, 2, 3, or somebody uses 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and somebody uses LOD and all that. So in our project, we have specified LOD up to 500 level actually, and including BIM 360 also. So, but what I could understand is the specifications are. There should be, I think, some standardization of specifications. I think maybe on behalf of India BIM Association, you may please look into this. And if you, with the expert, with the advice of, I mean, with the cooperation of other experts, if you can finalize or if you can draft some specifications, maybe I think it will be useful to the person.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to add on some topic on this. When we say about standardizing the way of implementing BIM, when we compare it with the maturity levels, like as per the UK or Australian maturity levels, level 0 is no BIM, level 1 is you are doing little BIM with design team, and then level 2 you are taking it design and construction, level 3 is for overall life cycle. And it also aligns with the policies. Level 1 is like you have your organization level BIM standards. Level 2 is like you have a national BIM standards. Level 3 is like you have a global BIM standards, which are like ISO 19650 and so on. And these standards are for level 3, the ISO 19650 and other relevant standards for the BIM are getting evolved. 1951 and 2 are already there. Part 5 is getting ready by end of this month, I think. So there is a lot of developments happening at the ISO level, but still we can look at a national level standardization.
Yes.
And anyone like to add on for this from our panel? I think everyone.
One more small request. Like I would like to, I mean, seek your help in organizing some webinar among CPWD fraternity. So I try to coordinate with my other counterparts. So for the knowledge of my colleagues, like my colleagues and other engineers of the department.
Okay. Yeah.
So this type of things, if it is possible, like I think we can start with CPWD itself. I mean, so that I mean you can be the tool in penetrating this technology among the construction industry.
Yeah, for sure. And I recently heard that CPWD is looking for BIM roadmap development. And I heard that it's coordinating with British High Commission for these things. I mean, this is only the talks I'm hearing about. So, in fact, we will be happy from the National Society to support you on these lines also. Like how as a client, how to look forward for digital transformation.
Okay.
And it's a step-by-step procedure and handholding and so on. As a society, we're able to support you on those lines.
Fine. Thank you.
And do we have a questions from the audience side? I see in the chat box, there's not much of questions. There's only saying thanks and so on. Okay, now I think there are questions started. This is from Scott Knox. And his question is, what BIM leadership is coming from the Government of India Housing and Urban Affairs in terms of tender requirements for their IIT or IIM projects, design and construction? Dr. Senthil on probably Dr. Senthil can answer this because he's speaking about IoT.
No, I think CPWD can, because they
No,
will be
that is what I, yes, yes.
yeah.
If you allow me to say, actually, I told you, no, I mean, like as of now, there is no government policy that BIM should be made mandatory. And in CPWD tenders also, like most of the chief engineers, they have got the authority to add the specific conditions. And for all these new IITs and the institutions which are coming up under HRD and the major projects, actually, let me be very clear about it. I mean, major projects means which are costing 200 or 300 crores, above, I mean, plus 200 crores. So we are putting the condition that it should be made mandatory.
Yes.
And generally we keep the condition up to LOD 500, so that I mean the as-built drawings are also properly handed over to the our clients, so which will be useful for them for their maintenance and all their activities.
Okay.
Hi everyone, this is Harsh from Trimble. Especially IITians and the overall panel. I just want to make one comment. I really witnessed that there are a lot of tenders now coming up with specifying BIM, or sometimes it is specifying some tool. I would really urge that I think there has to be two-fold strategy if you really want this to be part of your business as usual. And the question is, first, it needs to be internally institutionalized, so there is no pushback internally. And when we are putting BIM as a mandate, then as Mr. Raghu said, that there are specifications not to be given as a tool, but I think the specification needs to be given and what is the outcome needed, which I think most of the tender documents are missing at the principal organization level, because ultimately this is going to help the cost for the owners, not cost for anybody else. And I think we need to look the life cycle cost of the project rather than looking at particular phase of the project, that whether it is a construction cost, whether it's a design cost. Okay, so I would really urge, when we are putting or crafting the BIM specifications for our project requirement, it needs to be not at the tool level, it needs to be at the outcome level. And probably Amar, we would need you to lead that conversation across the industry.
Yes, if you allow me to talk, I agree with Mr. Harsh, and also would like to actually touch upon some of the points in the previous topic, like, is there a mandate? I mean, as he mentioned, there is no mandate, and it's all, I mean, as of now, working as a project champion level. Like if a project manager or a top management is convinced to actually, go with this, then they'll go with this. And one of the drawback in that is also being discussed in the presentation, that we don't have enough skill sets to advise the owner from the owner side, or from the CPWD side, or from the other side. So that, I mean, that is kind of a gap that need to be discussed, need to be nullified from the national agencies or whatever it is. And standardization and codes and directives need to be definitely put in place. Otherwise, it is going to be actually trouble, or the point what Harsh made, like, I just opted it because I wanted to, I mean, I am familiar with that. No, that kind of a mindset can be removed only when you have a vendor neutral specification or whatever it is, or a guidelines or a directives. That is missing in India. That has to be there. That's the point. I mean, I hope I connected both the points, whatever it is.
I think, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Senthil. The next question is, how can BIM be utilized for waste management? Can anyone like to answer this one? I think the people who test on facility maintenance probably can address this. Sonali or from Dassault.
I think just having a model built and then using it to simulate, we can do better waste management. But I'm assuming waste management in terms of the material that we are using for construction, that we want to do better.
I think, Amar, I want to add here, I think the IoT needs to be introduced if you really want to make it workable. So just by having a 3D model linked with the facility management is fine, but if you want to be channelized and operationalized, then I think our IoT-based assets needs to be installed inside to have a better mechanism in terms of the overall supply chain. That I would call it, and technology is available to ensure and maintain it. So again, as I said, BIM as a processor should not be limiting ourselves to only software perspective. I think a lot of hardware integration needs to be there at the construction level, at the operational and maintenance level, and I think this IoT needs to be introduced and should be like cherished. Modeling.
Thank you, Mr. Harshparik. The next question is from Senthil Rajendran. Could the panel throw some light on BIM and GIS integration? How far is the industry ready with this? Anyone like to touch on the part BIM and GIS here?
I think BIM and GIS, I mean, Harsh this side and good, we have Lakshmi also. There has been a synergy already being building between geocentric building information modeling. And there are tools, so when we talk about platform agnostic, multiple technologies, it's all about precision, position, centric construction when we're talking. So, of course, they are still considered as two different goals, but in the past 3 to 4 years, I think there have been enough conversation and conducive approach where people are trying to put it together and how we can make it geo-enabled or geocentric information models. It's pretty much happening. It's still long to go.
So I'd like to answer this in two ways from a DSO point of view. So one, if you look at how do we connect the GIS information with the BIM, yes, we have from a technology point of view, where we have showcased with, and we have implemented at a couple of customers' places where how they can geolocate any asset, be it a building or an infrastructure, how by reading the GIS information like some maps and all, how we can kind of map it to our platform and how the buildings can be done in the context, virtually how it can be kind of designed and constructed virtually in the context of GIS information. The other way in which we look at this is interfacing GIS with BIM is with 3D city. Like a lot of smart city projects have been going on in India. So we have been working with a couple of smart city initiatives, like one in Jaipur and now one is going to start in Karnataka, where we have done a lot of GIS-based activities first in terms of data acquisition, GIS data acquisition, and then processing that data, and how that can be kind of geolocated onto the platform so that virtually people can build 3D cities, okay, virtual cities, so that it will help the urban planning and development, municipal corporations in kind of making what I would say the informed decisions in terms of any activity or the facility that they have to kind of implement for cities or citizens. So this is how I would like to answer. Yes, definitely, as Harsh is also adding. So technology development is going on over the last few years. We started this journey almost 6 years back with Singapore. So now we have taken to a level where we can confidently say that yes, there is an interface, and the interfaces are kind of standardized also, how it can be kind of leveraged.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmi.
I may add just a couple of points to that. So there's a lot of work happening in academia at the moment. So there's research work in looking at standards and so on. And Building Smart has taken this very seriously, looking from city GML point of view and BIM infrastructure. So BIM Infra Group is looking very actively into this integration.
To add on, the Open Geospatial Communications, OGC, is working on this line, BIM and GA. And the next, there are series of questions, but I would like to point out some of them, and then I will share all the questions with all the panelists. Maybe we will reach out to them later on that answers. So the next question is from Uday V. Mahajan. How is Indian government aware of BIM technology and mandating on at least government buildings? Probably this is for our Raghu Babu. Or Dr. Senthil?
I think the government initiatives, Raghu is the best person if I'm not wrong. I think you have to unmute, sir. Raghu, sir, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So you will have to unmute yourself, sir. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. The government is aware of the BIM advantages. So there is, of course, unfortunately, as of now, there are no policies actually. So there is a reason I'm saying, like from the last 1-2 years, almost all the major works of central government, I should say, is the implementation has already been started. But of course, everyone is making the conditions in his own choice. Like there is a reason, I was just requesting that there should be some sort of guidelines for that India BIM Association can take some lead, that a standardization has to be done. I don't know, whether BAS, Bureau of Indian Standards, will really look into this. If not, we can, India BIM Association can approach even BAS also for making the standardization, at least for the building industry to begin with, I should say.
Sure.
I think, answer this question.
Yes. Just to add along with Mr. Raghu, like from the CPWD side, it's a request again. You can also, you already said that people are following CPWD's standards and all those things. Some of the tender conditions and other things we can relook, and then we can come up with kind of a standardization of BIM-enabled project implementation and other things, which include the vendor neutrality inside whatever the other speaker was requesting.
Yeah, okay, let me really share you that, my tenders, my tender condition, whatever I put in my tenders, have been really copied by my other counterparts. Like I really took some efforts of making the specifications, at least to fulfill my, my client requirements of up to at least LOT 500 level. To a very great extent, that is what I personally feel. But of course, really now I feel, after listening to all the these listener presenters, I really feel, there should be some standardization, so that, there should not be any loose end, like after taking so much efforts, there should be proper use of this technology. That is what really I feel now.
Thank you, Raghu Babu. The next question is from Ashish Upadhyay for Ms. Sonali. What were the top 3 issues not envisaged during 5D BIM implementation stage for Nagpur Metro project? What could have been done better to avoid those at the planning stage itself?
Thanks. I can list a lot of things, but I don't want to get into too much details. I think one of the biggest challenges that was there was the platform got set up after some of the contracts were awarded, which are not just the design, but even the construction contracts. Those contracts didn't have any mention of being using BIM or even the whole 5D part of it, the project plan linking to it, or using ERP. So those contractors just didn't have budget built in for this, and there was a lot of resistance to adopt because of that. The second challenge I think I want to highlight is that vision of 5D BIM that was there for Nagpur Metro was a little too much for some of the contractors who were just not ready for BIM or on their first or second BIM projects. And so to achieve that, it was a lot of, again, pushback. So I think if we look at Pune Metro now compared to Nagpur Metro, we are much better off, because the platform is already there. People in Pune Metro are using it even before contracts got awarded, they knew about it. And then I think another challenge would be from an OSO perspective is what we as service providers or system integrators had to do, even at the owners, the Nagpur Metro had not done this before. So there's hand holding to be done. There was flip and lot of back and forth that happened. And I think because of that, Pune Metro is much more stabler compared to the Nagpur Metro usage of the tool.
Thank you, Sonali. The next question is how do we join India BIM Association? How we contribute to the society for making mandate for the projects? Well, the India BIM Association is a voice of the community for the digital transformation of the Indian AECO sector. So you can join hands with us as a volunteer or become a member of the society. Then we have a active members group who are working on these lines. You're welcome to join us. So just Google India BIM, you'll find the website and there's a membership details and you can join. The next question is by Suchet. Tools specified in the tenders are generally the ones which client is comfortable working with. In this case, other software providers need to ensure their solutions reach the supply chain equally well. Okay, this is for the client or tech vendor. I don't know. Maybe probably both of them need to answer this.
Yeah, I would like to go first from the systems point of view. Yes, it's a valid point, and kind of it resonates to what Mr. Raghu Babu or Dr. Santil has been saying. So if we have common standards as an outcome of what is the outcome of BIM, probably even the technology providers can work with the policy bodies or government bodies and say how we can achieve irrespective of which technology a particular project chooses. Okay, so predominantly, yes, if you look at any platform in the kind of current available technology market, so we support the open standards, as I said. So BIM today as Building Smart, what Mr. Vishal was saying, so Building Smart is kind of heavily pushing for IFC, which is Industry Foundation Class. It's a standard format. Okay, because in manufacturing industry, if you look at today, everybody talks only two languages when it comes to sharing of data, which is IGS or STEP. So similarly, if IFC can become the standard adoptable or interoperable platform or data format across any projects, definitely would be happy to support.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lakshmi. The next question is from Abul Azad. At what stage we can realize the return on investment for better clarity to the client? Can this possible before the EPC on board?
I can answer that. It is absolutely possible before EPC comes on board, because if you do a better job at your pre-construction with the design using BIM, you're just going to eliminate more than 80% of your construction challenges, not just because of clashes, but better procurement is possible. You can do it faster and just infinite uses to it.
My point of view is kind of agree to what Sonali is saying. Also, an expression of thought is that if we can get this AEC community onboarded quickly, early stage, so that they can also kind of come up with, because that's where the collaborative aspect comes in the picture. So in the early phase of pre-construction phase, they can also give their input, so that even the architects and designers can also ensure that their design intent is also not lost, while taking care of all the manufacturing constraints in the picture. So that is how I would.
I could see that if I'm talking, I mean, I could see that the question is something which is a little bit of misunderstood, if I'm not wrong. So the question is asked about the EPC, the pure EPC mode. EPC mode means the contractors will do all the engineering part. I mean, so the engineering might not have happened, before you appoint the EPC contractor. I mean, as such, EPC as such, if I'm not wrong. So in that case, I mean, given that condition, Mr. Azad, I mean, it's really a challenge, and you have to educate the client. I mean, if the consultants are there, the PMC consultant or somebody has been on board before the EPC contractor is on board, then they have to actually educate the client, because what we have done is EPC mode 3, which is not the typical EPC which used to happen in most of the projects, if I understood the question correctly.
Thanks, Dr. Santil.
The next question
I would like to add, just See, I mean, like, okay, this generally, the ground reality is making this, what do you call, all the GFC drawings before start with the project. What I have experienced is, many of the cases is there is a big no to that. I mean, it's not happening. So, like, it is always better that, I mean, let us aim for implementation of the BIM maybe during execution. If at all you start thinking that I wanted to make everything ready before tendering, this has really led to huge wastage of the time. And after that, what I have seen is during execution, there is a big clash happening between the consultant and the contractor. I think now this I have seen in many of the institutes. And one more thing is the returns, of course, you will get during construction. More than the returns, you will get peace of mind, which is, I think, is most important to the construction staff.
Thank you, Raghu. And the next question is from Venugopal. Is there any reference standard for manufacturers to create BIM content and the BIM objects?
I think there are plenty. There are standards around the world.
Okay. And also there is a standardized way of developing this parametric object, and you can touch base with us and we'll be able to share you some details. Okay, there's a next question from one is Sabresh. How can student get educated about BIM in India itself? I mean, there's a question like, because I see on day-to-day basis, many students keep asking, where do we get the education on BIM? Many of the times they are driven only on a software level. And my understanding in the market is BIM education to be given at 3 levels: at a technology level, next a management level, and third is at a strategic level. Because if I see there are many companies looking for digital transformation, there are no strategic experts to support them. And it's not easy to make a decision on which technologies, which workflows, and standardizing, implementing BIM. So there is a need for proper education programs delivered by some of our universities, including IIT Palakkad, IAC. And there's a lot of work to be done together on developing these programs. And for now, the kind of education, if you're looking for India itself, there are already MOOC platforms available like Coursera, edX, Udemy, Lynda, LinkedIn. These are some of the online because of COVID situations. You cannot go anywhere. And even the foreign universities, if you're looking for abroad for running, they have made 6 months work. You need to report from your country, and then they will think of whether you need to go there. And there are also some courses, when you are making a decision on the course, what you are looking for, then you should also think about what is the position you are looking for the job role. And you should make a proper decision before you pitch in on any education on BIM. Because BIM is not just a 1 or 2 technologies. It's about different technologies, applications across the life cycle. And you should make a clear decision on which technologies you want to go with, what kind of management positions you need to go with, what kind of strategic skills you need to develop. These are all the things you need to focus on. And there is one question from Prashant. Sir, I want to know what basic standards to be taken, how it can be implemented. What basic standards to be taken and how it can be implemented. This is a very general question, like what kind of standards for what implementations. For example, if you are now currently looking for ISO 19651 and 2 can be started with, because most of the companies are getting certified for ISO nowadays, and it will be also helping you to align with level 3 BIM requirements. And there are trainings in the market for this implementations, but they're super expensive by BSI and Lloyds. There is a need for launching this kind of courses on standardizing BIM implementations also by the external agencies. Last one, thank you for taking up my comment by Suchit. It was a response to Mr. Harsh, who mentioned that tenders should not be a tool specific. Non-Autodesk solution providers need to be improved their reach to clients. Okay, so I think we have addressed almost all the queries here. And if there is any other queries, you have the contacts of our panelists. You are welcome to connect with them. And also you can reach out to our society or CAI for these things. Okay.
Hello.
We have a background. Yes, we can hear you.
Are we done with the questions, sir? Dr. Amar?
We are done with the questions.
Okay, well, I think that was a very interesting session with the of knowledge in just 3 hours. I'm sure this is a much wider subject. I was seeing a few of the remarks where Dr. Vishal has also mentioned that putting everything together in 10 to 15 minutes is a big challenge. I understand that, and this is just an attempt where perhaps the I and BIM Association have come together to identify this important topic. We have done these kind of sessions earlier and continue to do this. May I first thank Dr. Amarnath for conceptualizing this with us and partnering with us as an organizer here. A lot of effort has been put in by him. Thank you, Dr. Amarnath, for the leadership. I would also like to thank all the panelists who are here from academia, from industry, for taking their valuable time out for this interaction. And before I conclude, I would really like to thank the partners, the sponsors who have agreed to support this. This is the first initiative we've done through an online model, and we would want to continue these kind of engagement with the membership. CII has been working on various initiatives as far as digital transformation is concerned. We have set up a center of excellence also on digital transformation for manufacturing for other sectors, and want to kind of engage with industry in this sector as well. So let me thank Dassault Aviation, Trimble, Unity, and Excelize for partnering with us. Thank you very much, and participants for this session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prashant, and thanks for all the panelists and the audience for joining us. And it was a wonderful session. As we discussed, we had people from society, contractor, tech vendors, and professors, and also from the service providers. And it's a good introduction to all these areas and how people need to start. And you're welcome to connect with us. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks to all.
Thanks all.
Thank you all. Thank you.